The foundations of what would eventually become ninjutsu emerged not from any single moment of inspiration, but through the gradual evolution of necessity during Japan's most politically volatile centuries. As the Asuka period gave way to the Nara era, the Japanese archipelago witnessed unprecedented social upheaval, territorial disputes, and the constant threat of foreign invasion. Within this crucible of conflict, unconventional warfare tactics began to take shape, born from the desperate need to survive in an environment where traditional military confrontation often proved inadequate or impossible. The Asuka period marked Japan's first serious encounters with sophisticated Chinese military philosophy and Korean tactical innovations. Court officials and military commanders, faced with the challenge of defending scattered territories against both internal rebellions and external threats, quickly recognized that conventional armies alone could not secure their domains. The mountainous terrain of Japan, with its dense forests, treacherous passes and hidden valleys, naturally favored those who could move unseen and strike without warning. Early military leaders began employing scouts who possessed intimate knowledge of local geography, individuals capable of traversing difficult terrain while gathering crucial intelligence about enemy movements and fortifications. These early reconnaissance specialists operated under various titles and organizational structures, but their fundamental role remained consistent: to provide information that could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. Court records from the period, though often fragmentary and coded in euphemistic language, reveal instances of special messengers and mountain guides who performed duties far beyond their official descriptions. These individuals conducted surveillance of rival clans, infiltrated enemy camps to assess military strength, and occasionally engaged in sabotage operations designed to weaken opposition forces before conventional battles commenced. The influence of Chinese military philosophy during this formative period cannot be overstated. Sun Tzu's Art of War, which had already achieved legendary status in Chinese military circles by the time it reached Japan in the 6th century, provided a theoretical framework that Japanese military thinkers adapted to their unique geographical and cultural circumstances. The treatise's emphasis on deception, intelligence gathering, and the importance of knowing both oneself and one's enemy resonated deeply with Japanese commanders who faced the constant challenge of defending island territories against numerically superior forces. Japanese military strategists found particular value in Sun Tzu's teachings regarding the use of spies and the importance of information warfare. The Chinese master's classification of different types of intelligence agents, local spies, internal spies, converted spies, doomed spies and surviving spies, provided a systematic approach to espionage that Japanese commanders eagerly incorporated into their own operations. However, the Japanese adaptation of these concepts reflected their unique cultural and geographical context. Where Chinese warfare often involved vast plains and massive armies, Japanese conflicts frequently occurred in mountainous regions where small groups of highly trained individuals could achieve strategic objectives impossible for larger forces. The Japanese interpretation of Sun Tzu's principles emphasized flexibility and adaptation to local conditions. Military commanders began training selected warriors in techniques that went far beyond conventional combat skills. These individuals learned to move silently through forests, to read weather patterns and seasonal changes that might affect military operations, and to blend seamlessly with civilian populations when gathering intelligence. The concept of winning without fighting, central to Sun Tzu's philosophy, became particularly relevant in the Japanese context, where the destruction of enemy morale and the disruption of supply lines could prove more effective than direct military confrontation. The Yamabushi, or mountain ascetics, played a crucial role in developing many of the skills that would later become fundamental to ninja training. These religious practitioners, who sought spiritual enlightenment through rigorous physical and mental discipline in Japan's most remote mountain regions, possessed unparalleled knowledge of wilderness survival and mountain terrain navigation. Their daily practices included extended periods of meditation in harsh weather conditions, fasting that tested the limits of physical endurance, and ritualistic exercises designed to develop extraordinary sensory awareness. The Yamabushi tradition emerged during the late Nara period as a synthesis of indigenous Shinto beliefs, Buddhist philosophy, and Taoist practices imported from China. These mountain ascetics established training centers in remote locations throughout Japan, particularly in the mountainous regions of Kumano, Yoshino, and the peaks surrounding Mount Fuji. Their training regimens were notoriously demanding, requiring practitioners to develop not only spiritual discipline, but also practical skills essential for survival in Japan's most challenging environments. The physical conditioning methods employed by Yamabushi included techniques for moving silently across different types of terrain, methods for finding and purifying water sources, and skills for identifying edible plants and tracking game animals. Their meditation practices enhance sensory perception to extraordinary levels, enabling practitioners to detect subtle changes in their environment that might indicate the presence of other humans or dangerous wildlife. These ascetics also developed sophisticated systems of non-verbal communication, using hand signals and coded sounds that allowed for coordination during group activities without alerting potential observers. The connection between Yamabushi practices and early espionage techniques became apparent as military commanders began recruiting individuals with mountain training for intelligence operations. The ascetics' ability to traverse difficult terrain undetected, their knowledge of hidden paths and mountain refuges, and their capacity for extended periods of solitary operation made them invaluable assets for reconnaissance missions. Moreover, their religious status often provided them with legitimate reasons to travel between different territories, offering perfect cover for intelligence-gathering activities. The first documented instances of organized covert operations in Japanese history can be traced to Prince Shotoku's administration during the early 7th century. Shotoku, who served as regent for Emperor Suiko from 593 to 622 AD, faced the monumental challenge of consolidating imperial authority while managing complex relationships with powerful clan leaders and foreign diplomatic missions. His court records, preserved in various temple archives and official chronicles, contain numerous references to special investigators and confidential envoys whose activities clearly extended beyond conventional diplomatic or administrative functions. Prince Shotoku's intelligence network operated on multiple levels, incorporating both court officials and individuals recruited from outside the traditional aristocratic hierarchy. His agents conducted surveillance of potentially rebellious clan leaders, monitored the activities of foreign diplomatic missions, and gathered information about military preparations in rival territories. The prince's approach to intelligence gathering reflected his understanding of Chinese administrative practices, but adapted these concepts to the unique challenges of early Japanese governance. One particularly well-documented operation involved the investigation of the Soga clan's growing political influence during the late 6th century. Shotoku's agents infiltrated Soga household staff, established surveillance positions near key Soga properties, and developed a comprehensive understanding of the clan's political alliances and military capabilities. This intelligence proved crucial when political tensions between the imperial court and the Soga clan reached crisis levels, allowing Shotoku to anticipate Soga moves and develop effective countermeasures. The techniques employed by Shotoku's intelligence operatives demonstrated sophisticated understanding of both human psychology and practical espionage methods. Agents learned to adopt convincing cover identities, often posing as travelling merchants, religious pilgrims, or itinerant craftsmen. They developed skills in lockpicking, document copying, and the art of extracting information through casual conversation without arousing suspicion. The prince's intelligence organization also established safe houses and communication networks that allowed for the rapid transmission of sensitive information across considerable distances. The Genpei War, the climactic conflict between the Taira and Minamoto clans that ultimately established the Kamakura shogunate, marked a watershed moment in the development of unconventional warfare tactics in Japan. This prolonged struggle, fought across multiple theatres throughout the Japanese archipelago, created conditions that demanded innovative military approaches far beyond traditional battlefield confrontations. Both sides quickly recognized that victory would depend not only on the strength of their samurai warriors, but also on their ability to gather intelligence, disrupt enemy operations, and maintain secure communication lines across vast distances. The Minamoto clan, initially at a significant disadvantage due to the Taira's control of the imperial court and superior naval capabilities, proved particularly innovative in developing guerrilla warfare techniques. Minamoto commanders, operating from bases in the mountainous regions of eastern Japan, organized small units capable of conducting raids against Taira supply lines, gathering intelligence about enemy troop movements, and coordinating resistance activities in Taira-controlled territories. These operations required individuals with specialized skills in stealth movement, wilderness survival, and the ability to operate independently for extended periods. The Battle of Kurakura in 1183 exemplified the strategic importance of intelligence gathering and unconventional tactics during the Genpei War. Minamoto Yoshinaka's forces achieved a decisive victory against a numerically superior Taira army through the use of detailed reconnaissance that revealed weaknesses in Taira defensive positions and enabled a coordinated night attack that completely surprised the enemy. The operation's success depended on the work of scouts who had spent weeks observing Taira movements, mapping their camp layout, and identifying optimal approach routes for attacking forces. Naval operations during the Genpei War also contributed significantly to the development of specialized reconnaissance techniques. The Taira clan's dominance of sea routes forced Minamoto commanders to develop methods for gathering intelligence about enemy naval movements and identifying opportunities for surprise attacks against Taira vessels. This maritime intelligence gathering required individuals capable of operating small boats in dangerous waters, conducting surveillance from concealed coastal positions, and coordinating with land-based forces to maximize the effectiveness of combined operations. The siege warfare that characterized many Genpei war engagements further accelerated the development of infiltration and sabotage techniques. Both sides employed specialists capable of penetrating enemy fortifications to gather intelligence about defensive preparations, supply levels, and troop morale. These operations often involved individuals who could pose convincingly as merchants, craftsmen, or religious figures, allowing them to gain access to fortified positions without arousing suspicion. The psychological warfare aspects of Genpei war conflicts also contributed to the evolution of deception techniques that would later become central to ninja methodology. Military commanders discovered that spreading false information about troop strengths, battle plans, or political developments could prove as effective as direct military action in achieving strategic objectives. This realization led to the development of sophisticated disinformation campaigns that required agents capable of infiltrating enemy territories and disseminating carefully crafted, false intelligence through multiple channels. The period's military innovations extended beyond tactical considerations to encompass technological developments that enhanced the effectiveness of covert operations. Improvements in metalworking techniques produced lighter, more durable weapons suitable for stealth operations. Advances in textile production created clothing materials that provided better camouflage in various environments while maintaining the durability necessary for extended field operations. These technological improvements, combined with evolving tactical doctrines, established the foundation for the specialized equipment and techniques that would characterize later ninja operations. The social upheaval created by the Genpei War also contributed to the development of networks that would prove crucial for future covert operations. The conflict displaced thousands of individuals from their traditional social positions, creating a population of masterless samurai, dispossessed farmers, and displaced craftsmen who possessed valuable skills but lacked conventional means of support. Many of these individuals found employment in the intelligence and special operations networks established by various military commanders, bringing diverse expertise that enhanced the effectiveness of unconventional warfare capabilities. The geographic scope of the Genpei War, spanning virtually the entire Japanese archipelago, necessitated the development of communication systems capable of transmitting information rapidly across vast distances while maintaining security against enemy interception. This requirement led to innovations in coded messaging, the establishment of relay stations in remote locations, and the training of messengers capable of traversing difficult terrain under dangerous conditions. These communication networks represented early examples of the sophisticated logistical systems that would later support organized ninja operations. The establishment of Heian-kyo in 794 AD marked the beginning of an era that would fundamentally transform the nature of intelligence gathering and covert operations in Japan. Emperor Kamu's decision to relocate the imperial capital from Nara represented more than mere administrative reorganization. It signaled the emergence of a sophisticated political environment where survival depended as much on information and intrigue as on military prowess. The new capital's carefully planned layout, with its grid system of streets and clearly delineated districts for different social classes, created an environment where surveillance and counter-surveillance became essential tools for navigating the complex web of court politics. The Heian court's intelligence networks developed organically from the practical necessities of managing an increasingly complex governmental structure. The Fujiwara clan's rise to dominance during the 9th century exemplified how systematic information gathering could translate into political power. Through their control of key administrative positions and strategic marriage alliances with the imperial family, the Fujiwara established what amounted to a state within a state, complete with its own intelligence apparatus that monitored potential rivals, tracked the loyalty of subordinate officials, and maintained detailed records of court activities that might affect their political interests. Fujiwara no Yoshifusa, who became the first non-imperial regent in 858, operated an intelligence network that extended far beyond the capital's boundaries. His agents, disguised as travelling merchants, Buddhist monks and court messengers, maintained regular contact with provincial governors and local clan leaders throughout the realm. These operatives gathered information about regional political developments, economic conditions that might affect tax revenues, and potential military threats that could challenge central authority. The intelligence they provided enabled Yoshifusa to anticipate political challenges and position the Fujiwara clan advantageously before competitors could respond to changing circumstances. The sophistication of Heian court espionage became particularly evident in the methods employed to monitor rival aristocratic families. Court officials developed elaborate systems for tracking the daily activities of potential enemies, using servants, minor officials, and even family members as unwitting sources of information. The practice of mono-no-aware, the aesthetic appreciation of transient beauty that characterized Heian cultural expression, provided perfect cover for intelligence operatives who could pose as poets, artists, or cultural enthusiasts while conducting surveillance of their targets. The imperial court's intelligence networks relied heavily on the complex social hierarchies that defined Heian society. Lower-ranking court officials, eager to advance their careers, frequently provided information about their superiors' activities in exchange for promises of promotion or protection. This system created multiple overlapping surveillance networks within the court structure, with different factions monitoring each other while simultaneously being observed by imperial agents loyal to the emperor's personal interests. The development of specialized guard units during the Heian period represented a crucial evolution in the integration of intelligence gathering with physical security. The Kebeishi, established in 810 AD as an imperial police force, initially functioned as a conventional law enforcement organization responsible for maintaining order in the capital. However, their mandate quickly expanded to include intelligence gathering activities that went far beyond simple crime prevention. Kebeishi operatives developed sophisticated techniques for infiltrating criminal organizations, monitoring the activities of potentially seditious groups, and gathering information about threats to imperial authority. The Kebeishi's intelligence operations relied on an extensive network of informants drawn from all levels of Heian society. Street vendors, entertainers, servants, and even Buddhist monks provided regular reports about suspicious activities, unusual gatherings, or conversations that might indicate plotting against the government. This information network proved particularly valuable during periods of political tension, when the Kebeishi could quickly identify and neutralize potential threats before they developed into serious challenges to imperial authority. The Guard unit's intelligence capabilities extended to sophisticated surveillance techniques that anticipated many methods later associated with ninja operations. Kebeishi agents learned to move through the capital's streets without attracting attention, using the city's complex network of canals, back alleys, and temple grounds to approach targets unobserved. They developed skills in lockpicking, document examination, and the art of extracting information through seemingly casual conversations. The most skilled operatives could infiltrate aristocratic households by posing as servants, craftsmen, or religious figures, gathering detailed intelligence about their targets' activities, associations, and plans. The Heian period's regional conflicts created conditions that accelerated the development of reconnaissance and infiltration techniques far beyond what court intrigue alone could have produced. The rise of powerful provincial clans during the 10th and 11th centuries challenged the central government's authority and created a complex military environment where traditional samurai warfare proved increasingly inadequate. The Taira and Minamoto clans, along with numerous smaller military families, found themselves engaged in conflicts that required sophisticated intelligence-gathering capabilities and unconventional tactical approaches. The Hogan Rebellion of 1156 demonstrated the critical importance of intelligence operations in determining the outcome of military conflicts. The dispute over imperial succession between Emperor Go Shirakawa and Emperor Sutoku created an opportunity for the Taira and Minamoto clans to advance their political positions through military intervention. However, the rebellion's outcome depended as much on the quality of intelligence each side possessed about their opponent's plans and capabilities as on the strength of their samurai warriors. Minamoto no Yoshitomo's forces achieved initial success in the rebellion through the use of detailed intelligence about Sutoku's defensive preparations at the Shirakawa Palace. Yoshitomo's agents had infiltrated the palace staff weeks before the conflict began, gathering information about guard rotations, defensive positions, and supply arrangements. This intelligence enabled Yoshitomo to plan a coordinated attack that exploited the weaknesses in Sutoku's defences and achieved tactical surprise despite the defenders' advance warning of the approaching assault. The Heiji Rebellion of 1159 further illustrated the evolving sophistication of military intelligence operations. Minamoto no Yoshitomo's attempt to eliminate Taira influence from the imperial court required extensive coordination between military units operating in different parts of the capital. The operation's success depended on precise timing and detailed knowledge of Taira movements, information that could only be obtained through systematic surveillance of key Taira officials and properties. The rebellion's planning phase involved months of intelligence gathering by agents who monitored Taira, no Kiyomori's daily routines, mapped the locations of Taira military assets within the capital, and identified potential escape routes that Taira leaders might use if the coup attempt succeeded. Yoshitomo's operatives also infiltrated the imperial palace staff to gather information about the emperor's schedule and the security arrangements protecting the imperial family. The development of specialized warrior monks during the Heian period contributed significantly to the evolution of unconventional warfare techniques that would later influence ninja methodology. The Sohei emerged during the 10th century as monastic communities faced increasing pressure to defend their extensive landholdings against encroachment by secular authorities and rival religious institutions. These warrior monks developed fighting techniques that combined traditional Buddhist martial arts with tactical innovations designed to maximize the effectiveness of relatively small forces against larger conventional armies. The Enryaku-ji temple complex on Mount Hiei became the most prominent center for Sohei development during the late Heian period. The temple's strategic location overlooking the capital provided an ideal base for monitoring political developments while maintaining the independence necessary for developing unconventional military capabilities. Enryaku-ji's warrior monks perfected techniques for rapid movement through mountainous terrain, enabling them to appear suddenly at locations throughout the Kyoto region before disappearing just as quickly into the temple's extensive network of mountain refuges. The Sohei's tactical innovations included sophisticated use of terrain features to maximize their combat effectiveness. Rather than engaging in direct confrontations with superior forces, warrior monks developed techniques for harassment warfare that wore down opponents through repeated small-scale attacks. These operations required detailed reconnaissance of enemy positions, careful coordination between dispersed units, and the ability to withdraw rapidly when faced with overwhelming opposition. The psychological warfare aspects of Sohei operations proved as important as their physical combat capabilities. The warrior monks cultivated a reputation for supernatural abilities that enhanced their effectiveness in intimidating opponents and recruiting supporters. Stories of Sohei who could move invisibly through enemy territory, appear and disappear at will, and predict their opponents' actions contributed to a mystique that made them more effective in achieving their objectives through reputation alone. The religious legitimacy of Sohei operations provided them with significant advantages in gathering intelligence and conducting covert activities. Buddhist monks enjoyed freedom of movement throughout Japan that secular agents could not match, allowing them to travel between different territories without arousing suspicion. Their religious status also provided them with access to information networks maintained by temple communities throughout the archipelago, creating intelligence capabilities that rivaled those of the imperial government. The Sohei's influence on later ninja development extended beyond tactical innovations to encompass philosophical approaches to warfare that emphasized adaptability, patience, and the importance of understanding both oneself and one's environment. The Buddhist concept of emptiness, which taught that all phenomena lacked inherent existence, provided a theoretical framework for understanding the fluid nature of conflict and the importance of remaining flexible in response to changing circumstances. The Heian period's economic development created new opportunities and challenges for intelligence operations that shaped the evolution of covert warfare techniques. The growth of commercial networks connecting the capital with provincial regions provided cover for intelligence operatives, while simultaneously creating new targets for surveillance and infiltration. Merchants travelling between different territories could gather valuable information about political developments, military preparations, and economic conditions that might affect government policy or clan strategies. The development of increasingly sophisticated administrative systems during the Heian period created new categories of information that required protection from hostile intelligence operations. Government records containing details about tax revenues, military capabilities, and diplomatic negotiations became valuable targets for rival clans and foreign powers. This situation necessitated the development of document security measures, including coded writing systems, secure storage facilities, and trusted courier networks for transmitting sensitive information. The Heian court's cultural emphasis on literary accomplishment and artistic refinement provided excellent cover for intelligence activities. Court officials who demonstrated exceptional skill in poetry, composition, calligraphy, or musical performance gained access to social circles where sensitive political information was frequently discussed. The practice of exchanging poems and letters among court members created numerous opportunities for gathering intelligence while simultaneously providing plausible explanations for maintaining extensive correspondence networks. The period's technological innovations contributed to the development of specialized equipment and techniques that enhanced the effectiveness of covert operations. Improvements in metallurgy produced tools and weapons better suited for stealth operations, while advances in textile production created clothing materials that provided superior camouflage capabilities. The development of more efficient transportation methods, including improved road networks and river navigation techniques, facilitated the rapid movement of intelligence operatives across considerable distances. The establishment of Minamoto no Yoritomo's military government at Kamakura in 1185 marked a fundamental transformation in how Japan organized and employed covert operations. Unlike the Heian court's reliance on aristocratic intrigue and informal intelligence networks, the new shogunate created systematic structures for espionage that reflected the practical, military mindset of warrior governance. Yoritomo understood that maintaining control over a geographically dispersed feudal system required constant vigilance and reliable information about potential threats, whether from discontented former enemies, ambitious vassals, or external dangers that might exploit internal weaknesses. The Genpei War had demonstrated conclusively that conventional military tactics alone could not guarantee victory in Japan's complex political and geographical environment. Both the Taira and Minamoto forces had employed extensive networks of scouts, infiltrators, and saboteurs throughout the conflict, but these operations remained largely improvised responses to immediate tactical needs, rather than components of comprehensive strategic planning. The war's lessons convinced Yoritomo that institutionalizing intelligence capabilities would prove essential for preventing future challenges to his authority while maintaining effective governance over territories that stretched from the northern reaches of Honshu to the southern islands of Kyushu. The shogunate's intelligence apparatus developed through the systematic expansion of existing warrior band practices rather than wholesale adoption of foreign models. Regional military leaders who had served effectively during the Genpei War brought their own networks of trusted operatives into the new governmental structure, creating a decentralized system that could adapt to local conditions while maintaining overall coordination through the Kamakura headquarters. This approach proved particularly effective because it preserved the personal loyalty relationships that formed the foundation of samurai military organization, while extending these bonds to encompass specialized non-combat roles. Yoritomo's establishment of the Shugo system created new opportunities and requirements for intelligence operations throughout Japan. These military governors, appointed to oversee provincial administration and maintain order in their assigned territories, needed detailed information about local political conditions, potential security threats, and the reliability of subordinate officials. The Shugo's responsibilities included monitoring the activities of former Taira supporters who might attempt to organize resistance movements, tracking the movements of masterless samurai who could pose security risks, and maintaining surveillance of religious institutions that might harbor political dissidents. The practical implementation of Shugo intelligence operations required the development of networks that could operate effectively across diverse geographical and cultural environments. Northern provinces with harsh winters and mountainous terrain demanded operatives skilled in cold weather survival and alpine navigation, while southern regions with subtropical climates and extensive coastlines required agents capable of maritime operations and jungle warfare. The shogunate's intelligence coordinators learned to match operative capabilities with regional requirements while maintaining communication systems that could function reliably despite seasonal weather variations and geographical obstacles. The integration of former Taira intelligence assets into the Kamakura system presented both opportunities and challenges for the new government. Many experienced operatives who had served Taira interests during the Yenpei War possessed valuable skills and knowledge of existing networks, but their loyalty to the victorious Minamoto remained questionable. Yoritomo's administrators developed sophisticated vetting procedures for evaluating former enemies while creating incentive structures that encourage cooperation without compromising operational security. These efforts produced a hybrid intelligence capability that combined the best elements of both sides' wartime experiences while eliminating potential security vulnerabilities. The shogunate's approach to managing religious institutions reflected the complex relationship between political authority and spiritual legitimacy that characterized medieval Japanese governance. Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines controlled extensive landholdings and maintained their own military forces, creating potential centers of resistance to secular authority. However, these same institutions provided valuable intelligence gathering opportunities through their networks of traveling monks, pilgrimage routes, and connections with communities throughout Japan. Kamakura administrators learned to balance surveillance of potentially troublesome religious leaders with cultivation of cooperative relationships that enhanced the government's information-gathering capabilities. The development of specialized courier systems during the early Kamakura period represented a crucial advancement in the shogunate's intelligence capabilities. The need to transmit sensitive information rapidly across Japan's challenging terrain required operatives who combined physical endurance with sophisticated knowledge of geography, weather patterns, and potential security threats. These messengers learned to utilize mountain paths, river systems, and coastal routes that remained passable during different seasons, while avoiding areas where hostile forces might intercept their communications. The Kamakura government's intelligence operations extended beyond domestic surveillance to encompass monitoring of foreign activities that might affect Japanese security interests. Chinese merchant vessels arriving at Japanese ports provided valuable information about political developments on the mainland, while Korean diplomatic missions offered insights into peninsular conflicts that could eventually involve Japan. The shogunate's operatives learned to extract intelligence from foreign visitors through careful observation and strategic questioning, while maintaining the diplomatic protocols necessary for preserving beneficial commercial relationships. The first Mongol invasion of 1274 transformed Japanese approaches to intelligence gathering and unconventional warfare more dramatically than any previous external threat. The invasion forces landing at Hakata Bay in northern Kyushu confronted Japanese defenders with military technologies, tactical doctrines, and organizational methods that differed fundamentally from anything they had previously encountered. The Mongols' use of coordinated cavalry charges, explosive projectiles, and massed archery formations required defensive responses that went far beyond traditional samurai combat techniques. Japanese commanders quickly recognized that defeating the Mongol threat would require detailed intelligence about enemy capabilities, intentions, and vulnerabilities that could only be obtained through systematic reconnaissance and infiltration operations. The invasion's initial phases demonstrated the inadequacy of conventional military intelligence methods when facing an opponent whose language, customs, and tactical approaches remained largely unknown to Japanese observers. This realization prompted immediate efforts to develop new intelligence-gathering techniques, specifically designed for operations against foreign enemies. The brief duration of the 1274 invasion prevented extensive Japanese infiltration of Mongol positions, but defenders managed to gather crucial information about enemy equipment, organizational structure, and combat methods through careful observation during battle engagements and examination of abandoned equipment after the Mongol withdrawal. Japanese craftsmen studied captured Mongol weapons and armor to understand their construction techniques and identify potential weaknesses. while military commanders analysed enemy tactical formations to develop effective countermeasures for future encounters. The 7-year interval between the first and second Mongol invasions provided Japanese forces with unprecedented opportunities to prepare systematic intelligence operations designed to counter the expected return of enemy forces. The Hojo Regency, which had assumed effective control of the Kamakura government, coordinated extensive efforts to gather information about Mongol military preparations in Korea and China, while simultaneously developing defensive capabilities that could exploit intelligence advantages to offset the invaders' superior numbers and advanced technology. Japanese intelligence operations during this preparatory period involved multiple coordinated efforts to penetrate Mongol-controlled territories and gather information about invasion planning. Agents disguised as merchants established trading relationships with Korean intermediaries who could provide information about Mongol military activities, while Buddhist monks travelling to Chinese temples gathered intelligence about the political and military situation in Yuan dynasty territories. These operations required careful coordination to avoid compromising individual agents while maximising the intelligence value of information gathered through different channels. The development of coastal surveillance networks along Japan's western shores represented one of the most sophisticated intelligence operations of the medieval period. The Hojo government organised fishing communities, merchant settlements, and religious institutions throughout Kyushu and western Honshu into an integrated early warning system capable of detecting and reporting Mongol naval movements long before invasion forces could reach their intended landing sites. This network included signal fire systems that could transmit warnings across hundreds of miles within hours, enabling Japanese forces to concentrate defensive resources at threatened locations while maintaining strategic reserves for responding to unexpected enemy moves. The Second Mongol invasion of 1281 provided the ultimate test of Japanese intelligence capabilities developed during the intervening years. The massive scale of the invasion force, which included separate fleets from Korea and southern China totaling over 140,000 troops, created intelligence challenges that dwarfed anything Japanese forces had previously encountered. However, the extensive preparation undertaken since 1274 enabled Japanese defenders to track enemy movements, predict landing sites, and coordinate defensive operations with unprecedented effectiveness. Japanese intelligence operatives succeeded in infiltrating Mongol staging areas in Korea during the months preceding the invasion, providing crucial information about enemy troop strengths, equipment capabilities, and planned operational sequences. These agents reported details about the invasion force's organizational structure, including the integration of Chinese naval expertise with Mongol cavalry tactics and Korean logistical support. The intelligence gathered through these dangerous missions enabled Japanese commanders to develop defensive strategies specifically tailored to counter the multi-ethnic invasion force's diverse capabilities. The prolonged duration of the 1281 invasion created opportunities for Japanese operatives to conduct sabotage operations against Mongol positions that had been impossible during the brief 1274 campaign. Small teams of infiltrators succeeded in penetrating enemy camps to gather intelligence about troop dispositions, supply levels, and morale conditions, while occasionally conducting limited sabotage operations against equipment and supplies. These missions required operatives capable of moving undetected through heavily guarded areas, while maintaining the discipline necessary to avoid compromising larger intelligence objectives for immediate tactical gains. The psychological warfare aspects of Japanese resistance during the Mongol invasions contributed significantly to the development of deception techniques that would later become central to ninja methodology. Japanese defenders discovered that spreading false information about the size and capabilities of defensive forces could influence enemy decision-making processes, while carefully orchestrated displays of determination and supernatural protection could affect Mongol troop morale. These psychological operations required agents capable of infiltrating enemy territories to disseminate disinformation while maintaining credible cover identities that would not arouse suspicion. The Mongol invasion's ultimate failure due to typhoon destruction of the invasion fleets provided Japanese forces with unprecedented opportunities to study enemy equipment, documents, and organizational methods. The systematic examination of wrecked vessels, abandoned equipment, and captured personnel yielded valuable intelligence about Mongol military capabilities that informed Japanese defensive planning for potential future threats. This intelligence-gathering effort represented one of the most comprehensive military technology assessments undertaken in medieval Japan, producing insights that influenced Japanese military development for generations. The political fragmentation that characterized the late Kamakura period created new opportunities for specialized covert operatives while simultaneously increasing the demand for their services. The Hojo Regency's gradual loss of effective control over provincial territories enabled regional warrior bands to develop independent military capabilities that often included sophisticated intelligence operations. These decentralized power structures created a competitive environment where military leaders needed reliable information about rival forces' capabilities and intentions to survive in an increasingly unstable political landscape. The rise of the Ashikaga family and other ambitious warrior clans during the early 14th century accelerated the development of professional intelligence networks that operated independently of central government oversight. These organizations recruited operatives from diverse social backgrounds, including masterless samurai seeking employment, displaced farmers with local geographical knowledge, and skilled craftsmen whose trades provided cover for surveillance activities. The competitive nature of this environment encouraged innovation in intelligence-gathering techniques, while creating opportunities for the most capable operatives to advance their careers through demonstrated effectiveness. The economic disruptions that accompanied the Kamakura period's political instability contributed to the emergence of intelligence networks that operated on commercial principles rather than traditional feudal loyalty relationships. Professional operatives began offering their services to the highest bidder, creating market-based intelligence capabilities that could adapt rapidly to changing political conditions. This commercialization of espionage services encouraged the development of specialized skills and equipment while establishing professional standards that enhanced operational effectiveness. Regional conflicts during the late Kamakura period provided extensive practical experience for operatives learning to conduct intelligence operations in diverse geographical and political environments. The complex alliances and shifting loyalties that characterized these conflicts required agents capable of adapting quickly to changing circumstances while maintaining operational security despite constantly evolving threat environments. These experiences produced a generation of intelligence professionals whose skills would prove crucial during the subsequent Muromachi period's even more complex political struggles. The collapse of the Kamakura shogunate in 1333 created a political vacuum that would fundamentally transform the nature of covert operations in Japan. As Emperor Go-Daigo's Kenmu restoration crumbled within 3 years and Ashikaga Takauji established his rival government in Kyoto, the resulting chaos of the Nanboku Cho period shattered the centralized intelligence networks that had served the Hojo Regency. Regional power centers emerged throughout Japan, each requiring sophisticated information gathering capabilities to survive in an environment where today's ally could become tomorrow's enemy. Within this crucible of political fragmentation, 2 provinces would rise to dominate the shadowy world of professional espionage, IGA and Koga. The geographical advantages of IGA province, nestled in the mountainous heart of central Honshu, became apparent as political authority fractured along regional lines. Surrounded by peaks that rose over 1,000 meters above sea level and connected to the outside world through only a handful of easily defended mountain passes, IGA offered natural protection that made it virtually impregnable to conventional military assault. The Suzuka Mountains to the north, the Kasagi Hills to the west, and the Yamato Plateau to the south created a natural fortress that could shelter entire populations during times of conflict, while providing countless hidden valleys where training camps and supply depots could operate without detection. The province's internal geography proved equally conducive to the development of unconventional warfare capabilities. Dense forests of Japanese cedar and cypress provided excellent cover for movement training, while the region's numerous streams and rivers offered opportunities to practice water-based infiltration techniques. The varied terrain, ranging from steep mountain slopes to gentle agricultural valleys, created ideal conditions for developing the diverse skill sets required for operations in different environments. Iga's scattered settlement pattern, with small villages separated by significant distances and connected primarily by mountain trails, fostered a culture of self-reliance and local cooperation that would prove essential for maintaining operational security. Koga Province, located in the fertile plains south of Lake Biwa, offered different but equally valuable advantages for covert operations. The province's position along the Tokaido, the major highway connecting Kyoto with the eastern provinces, provided unparalleled opportunities for intelligence gathering as travelers, merchants, and official messengers passed through the region, carrying information about political developments throughout Japan. The proximity to Kyoto, less than 50 kilometers to the southwest, enabled Koga operatives to maintain detailed surveillance of court activities while retreating to secure bases when their missions were complete. The agricultural prosperity of Koga's lake-adjacent plains provided economic resources that supported larger populations than Iga's mountainous terrain could sustain. This demographic advantage enabled Koga clans to maintain more extensive networks of operatives while developing specialized roles that required full-time dedication rather than seasonal availability. The province's numerous rivers and canals, originally constructed for irrigation and transportation, created natural training grounds for developing aquatic infiltration skills while providing concealed routes for moving between different operational areas. The strategic location of both provinces between the power centers of Kyoto, Nara, and the emerging military strongholds of eastern Japan placed their inhabitants at the crossroads of political intelligence. Major military campaigns invariably passed through or near these territories, providing residents with advance warning of troop movements while creating opportunities to gather detailed information about the capabilities and intentions of competing factions. This geographical positioning enabled IGA and Koga clans to develop comprehensive understanding of the broader political landscape that informed their operational planning and client relationships. The development of the Iga-ryu school of ninjutsu reflected the unique environmental and social conditions of its mountainous homeland. The school's foundational philosophy emphasized adaptation to natural surroundings, drawing inspiration from the Shugendo practices of Yamabushi, who had long used Iga's peaks for spiritual training. Iga-ryu practitioners learned to move through mountain terrain with supernatural stealth, utilizing knowledge of seasonal weather patterns, animal behavior, and plant growth cycles to avoid detection while conducting surveillance or infiltration missions. The physical conditioning methods employed by Ige-ryu schools pushed human endurance to extraordinary limits. Trainees spent months living in mountain caves with minimal supplies, developing the mental discipline necessary for extended solitary operations while learning to survive on foraged food and natural water sources. These exercises built not only physical resilience, but also the psychological toughness required for maintaining operational security under extreme stress. The harsh mountain environment naturally eliminated candidates who lacked the dedication necessary for professional covert operations, ensuring that only the most capable individuals advanced to active operational roles. Iga-ryu combat techniques reflected the school's emphasis on evasion and survival, rather than direct confrontation. Students learned to use terrain features as weapons, employing knowledge of cliff faces, loose rocks, and unstable ground to neutralize pursuing enemies without engaging in conventional combat. The school's weapons training focused on tools that could serve multiple purposes, such as the kunai, which functioned equally well as a digging implement, climbing aid, or throwing weapon depending on operational requirements. The intelligence-gathering methods developed by Iga Ryu practitioners demonstrated sophisticated understanding of human psychology and social dynamics. Operatives learned to adopt convincing personas drawn from all levels of society, from travelling merchants and itinerant monks to skilled craftsmen and court entertainers. Each cover identity required detailed knowledge of appropriate speech patterns, professional skills, and cultural references that would withstand scrutiny from suspicious observers. The school's training programs included extensive instruction in regional dialects, occupational terminology, and social customs that enabled operatives to blend seamlessly into diverse environments. The Koga Ryu school developed along different lines, reflecting the more cosmopolitan environment of its Lake Plain homeland. Where Iga Ryu emphasized individual self-reliance and mountain survival skills, Koga Ryu focused on urban operations and the manipulation of complex social networks. The school's proximity to major population centers provided extensive opportunities for practicing infiltration techniques in real-world environments. While the constant flow of travelers through this region offered countless opportunities to study different social types and refine cover identities, Koga Ryu training methods emphasize psychological manipulation and information extraction techniques that proved particularly effective in urban environments. Students learned to conduct seemingly casual conversations that elicited valuable intelligence without arousing suspicion, while developing the memory skills necessary to retain detailed information gathered through multiple sources over extended periods. The school's curriculum included instruction in document analysis, code breaking, and the creation of invisible inks and secret writing techniques that enabled secure communication between operatives and their handlers. The technological innovations developed by Koga Ryu practitioners reflected their focus on urban operations and close quarters work. The school's weaponsmiths created specialized tools for lockpicking, wall climbing, and silent entry that demonstrated remarkable engineering sophistication. Koga operatives employed collapsible ladders, portable grappling hooks, and climbing claws that could be concealed within ordinary clothing while providing the capabilities necessary for accessing fortified buildings and conducting surveillance from elevated positions. The philosophical differences between Iga Ryu and Koga Ryu approaches to ninjutsu reflected broader cultural distinctions between mountain and plain societies. Iga Ryu emphasized the importance of harmony with natural forces, teaching students to read weather patterns, animal behavior, and seasonal changes as sources of tactical advantage. Practitioners learned to view themselves as elements within larger natural systems, adapting their operations to work with rather than against environmental conditions. This philosophy produced operatives who could remain concealed in wilderness areas for extended periods while maintaining the patience necessary for long-term surveillance missions. Koga Ryu philosophy focused on understanding and manipulating human systems rather than natural ones. The school taught that successful operations depended on comprehensive knowledge of social hierarchies, political relationships, and economic networks that defined urban environments. Students learned to identify key individuals within target organizations while developing strategies for approaching these figures through intermediaries who could provide access without compromising operational security. This approach produced operatives who excelled at penetrating complex organizational structures and extracting information from unwilling sources. The clan structures that emerged in both IGA and Koga provinces during the 14th century reflected the unique demands of professional covert operations. Unlike traditional samurai families organized around military service and land ownership, ninja clans developed organizational models that prioritized operational security, specialized skill development, and flexible response to changing client requirements. These structures combined elements of family loyalty with professional competence, creating organizations capable of maintaining continuity across generations while adapting to evolving operational environments. The Hattori clan's rise to prominence within IGA province demonstrated how traditional warrior families could successfully transition to specialized covert operations. The family's origins traced back to immigrant settlers from the Korean peninsula who had established themselves in IGA during the 8th century, bringing metallurgical skills that proved valuable for weapons production. By the 14th century, the Hattori had developed these technical capabilities into comprehensive support for covert operations, maintaining workshops that produced specialized equipment while training family members in the skills necessary for field operations. Hattori clan organization reflected careful balance between security requirements and operational effectiveness. The family maintained strict compartmentalization between different operational units, ensuring that the compromise of individual operatives could not expose broader network activities. Senior clan members oversaw strategic planning and client relationships while delegating tactical operations to specialized teams whose members often remained unknown to each other except during specific missions. This organizational structure enabled the Hattori to maintain multiple simultaneous operations without compromising overall security, even when individual missions encountered difficulties. The clan's economic foundation rested on legitimate businesses that provided cover for covert activities while generating revenue to support operational expenses. Hattori enterprises included metalworking shops that produced agricultural tools and household implements alongside specialized ninja equipment, trading operations that moved goods between different provinces while gathering intelligence about political and economic conditions, and transportation services that provided legitimate reasons for clan members to travel extensively throughout central Japan. The Momochi clan developed different organizational approaches that reflected their focus on information gathering and analysis, rather than direct action operations. The family established themselves as hereditary administrators for several IGA temples, positions that provided access to extensive networks of religious institutions throughout Japan while offering legitimate cover for intelligence activities. Momochi operatives could travel freely between different provinces under religious auspices, gathering information about political developments while maintaining the social status necessary for accessing high-level sources. Momochi intelligence operations emphasize long-term strategic analysis over immediate tactical intelligence. The clan maintained detailed records of political relationships, economic trends, and military capabilities throughout Japan, creating comprehensive databases that enabled them to provide clients with sophisticated assessments of future developments, rather than simply current information. This analytical capability proved particularly valuable during periods of rapid political change, when traditional intelligence sources became unreliable and decision-makers required insights into probable future scenarios. The clan's training programs reflected their analytical focus, emphasizing education in classical literature, political philosophy, and economic theory, alongside traditional martial skills. Momochi operatives learned to function effectively in scholarly environments, conducting research in temple libraries and engaging in intellectual discussions that provided cover for intelligence-gathering activities. The clan's members often achieved genuine expertise in their cover professions, enhancing their credibility while developing professional networks that proved valuable for operational purposes. The Fujibayashi clan's organizational model combined elements of both Hattori and Momochi approaches while developing unique capabilities that reflected their geographical position near the border between IGA and Yamato provinces. The family's territory included several strategic mountain passes that controlled access between different regions, enabling them to monitor troop movements while collecting intelligence from travellers passing through their domain. This geographical advantage enabled the Fujibayashi to develop specialised expertise in tactical intelligence and battlefield reconnaissance. Fujibayashi operational methods emphasise rapid response capabilities that could provide clients with time-sensitive intelligence about enemy movements and intentions. The clan maintained networks of observation posts throughout the mountainous border regions, staffed by operatives capable of transmitting information quickly across considerable distances using signal fires, coded messages, and relay systems. These capabilities proved particularly valuable during military campaigns, when commanders required immediate intelligence about enemy positions and movements to make tactical decisions. The clan's training programs focused on developing operatives capable of functioning effectively in high-stress combat environments while maintaining the discipline necessary for accurate intelligence gathering. Fujibayashi operatives learned to conduct reconnaissance missions in close proximity to enemy forces, gathering detailed information about troop strengths, equipment capabilities, and defensive positions without compromising their own security. These skills required exceptional physical conditioning, advanced stealth techniques, and the psychological resilience necessary for operating under extreme danger. The outbreak of the Onin War in 1467 shattered the last vestiges of centralized authority in Japan, unleashing a century and a half of virtually continuous warfare that would transform the ninja from provincial specialists into indispensable components of military strategy. As the Ashikaga shogunate's power crumbled, and regional daimyo carved out independent domains through force of arms, the demand for intelligence services exploded beyond anything previously experienced in Japanese history. The complex web of shifting alliances, territorial disputes, and technological innovations that characterized the Sengoku period created unprecedented opportunities for ninja employment while simultaneously forcing rapid evolution in their techniques, organization, and strategic importance. The scale of warfare during the Sengoku period dwarfed previous conflicts in both geographical scope and operational complexity. Unlike the relatively localized disputes of earlier eras, Sengoku campaigns often involved multiple theaters of operation spanning hundreds of kilometers, with armies numbering in the tens of thousands maneuvering across terrain that ranged from mountainous highlands to coastal plains. Traditional methods of military intelligence, which had relied primarily on mounted scouts and local informants, proved inadequate for managing the information requirements of these massive undertakings. Military commanders discovered that success increasingly depended on their ability to gather detailed intelligence about enemy capabilities, predict opponent strategies, and coordinate complex operations across vast distances. The fragmentation of political authority created a competitive marketplace for intelligence services that enabled ninja clans to expand their operations far beyond their traditional geographical boundaries. Where previous generations had served primarily regional lords with established territorial bases, Sengoku-era ninja found themselves employed by ambitious commanders who required intelligence about enemies located hundreds of kilometers away. This expansion of operational scope demanded new organizational structures, communication systems, and training methods that could support extended campaigns in unfamiliar territories while maintaining the security standards essential for covert operations. Oda Nobunaga's rise to prominence during the 1550s demonstrated how systematic employment of ninja capabilities could provide decisive advantages in the chaotic military environment of the Sengoku period. Nobunaga's early campaigns in Owari province revealed his intuitive understanding of intelligence warfare's strategic importance, as he consistently demonstrated superior knowledge of enemy positions, capabilities, and intentions compared to his opponents. His victory at the Battle of Okahazama in 1560, where his forces achieved complete tactical surprise against Imagawa Yoshimoto's vastly superior army exemplified the combat advantages that effective intelligence operations could provide when properly integrated with conventional military planning. The Okazama campaign showcased ninja capabilities that had evolved considerably from their medieval predecessors. Nobunaga's intelligence operatives spent weeks infiltrating Imagawa-controlled territories, gathering detailed information about troop movements, supply arrangements, and command structures while maintaining cover identities that enabled them to operate in close proximity to enemy forces. These agents provided Nobunaga with comprehensive understanding of Imagawa Yoshimoto's route of march, the timing of his movements, and the disposition of his forces that enabled the surprise attack on the Imagawa headquarters during a moment of maximum vulnerability. The intelligence preparation for Okazama involved sophisticated coordination between multiple operational elements that demonstrated the increasing professionalization of ninja organizations. Reconnaissance teams mapped potential approach routes while identifying defensive positions that could threaten attacking forces. Communications specialists established relay systems that enabled rapid transmission of time-sensitive information about enemy movements. Infiltration experts penetrated Imagawa camps to gather intelligence about troop morale, supply levels, and command relationships that influenced tactical planning. This systematic approach to intelligence gathering represented a significant evolution from the improvised operations of earlier periods. Nobunaga's expansion throughout central Japan during the 1560s and 1570s relied heavily on intelligence networks that provided him with strategic advantages over opponents who continued to employ traditional military methods. His campaigns against the Asai and Asakura clans demonstrated how comprehensive intelligence preparation could enable smaller forces to achieve victory against numerically superior enemies through superior positioning and tactical coordination. The siege of Odani Castle in 1573 illustrated Nobunaga's systematic approach to intelligence warfare, as his operatives gathered detailed information about the fortress's defensive capabilities, supply arrangements, and garrison morale that informed both siege tactics and psychological warfare operations. The complexity of Nobunaga's intelligence requirements during his later campaigns necessitated the development of specialized operational capabilities that went far beyond traditional reconnaissance activities. His forces required detailed maps of unfamiliar territories, accurate assessments of local political loyalties, and comprehensive understanding of regional economic resources that could support military operations. These information needs demanded operatives capable of conducting extended research projects while maintaining operational security in hostile environments. Nobunaga's intelligence organizations developed systematic methods for gathering, analyzing, and disseminating information that anticipated modern military intelligence practices by several centuries. The technological innovations that characterized Sengoku warfare created new challenges and opportunities for ninja operations that forced rapid adaptation of traditional techniques. The introduction of Portuguese firearms during the 1540s revolutionized Japanese military tactics while creating new requirements for intelligence gathering about enemy weapons capabilities, ammunition supplies, and tactical doctrines. Ninja operatives learned to assess the effectiveness of different firearm types, identify weaknesses in enemy formations equipped with these weapons, and develop countermeasures that could neutralize technological advantages through superior tactics and positioning. The proliferation of firearms throughout Japan during the late 16th century required ninja organizations to develop new infiltration techniques that could overcome enhanced defensive capabilities. Traditional approaches to castle infiltration, which had relied primarily on scaling walls and exploiting architectural weaknesses, proved less effective against fortifications equipped with firearms and defended by troops trained in their use. Ninja adapted by developing more sophisticated approaches that combined traditional stealth techniques with detailed understanding of firearm capabilities and limitations. These evolved methods enabled continued effectiveness against increasingly sophisticated defensive systems. The architectural evolution of Japanese castles during the Sengoku period presented ninja with both obstacles and opportunities that shaped the development of specialized infiltration techniques. The construction of massive stone foundations, complex gate systems, and interconnected defensive structures created formidable barriers that required new approaches to overcome. However, the increased size and complexity of these fortifications also created additional entry points, hiding places, and internal routes that skilled operatives could exploit. Ninja developed detailed knowledge of castle construction techniques that enabled them to identify structural weaknesses and predict the location of hidden passages or maintenance access points. The sophisticated defensive systems employed by Sengoku-era castles included multiple layers of protection that required coordinated approaches to penetrate successfully. Outer baileys protected by moats and earthworks provided early warning of approaching threats, while channeling attackers into predetermined killing zones. Inner defensive rings incorporated stone walls, fortified gates, and elevated firing positions that could devastate conventional assault forces. The central keep, often constructed on elevated ground and surrounded by additional defensive works, represented the ultimate refuge for defending forces and the primary target for infiltration operations. Ninja responses to these enhanced defensive systems demonstrated remarkable ingenuity and adaptability. Operatives learned to exploit construction schedules and maintenance activities that provided temporary access to normally secure areas. They developed techniques for crossing water obstacles, using improvised flotation devices and underwater breathing apparatus that enabled extended submersion times. Climbing techniques evolved to handle smooth stone surfaces and vertical drops that exceeded anything encountered in earlier fortifications. These technical innovations required extensive training and specialized equipment that pushed ninja capabilities to new levels of sophistication. The communication challenges created by the geographical scope of Sengoku campaigns necessitated revolutionary advances in ninja information transmission methods. Traditional message systems, which had relied primarily on human couriers traveling established routes, proved inadequate for maintaining coordination across the vast distances involved in major campaigns. Ninja organizations developed complex relay networks that could transmit information rapidly across hundreds of kilometers while maintaining security against enemy interception. These systems incorporated multiple transmission methods, including signal fires, coded messages, and specialized courier services that could adapt to changing operational requirements. The development of sophisticated coding systems during the Sengoku period reflected the increasing importance of communication security in military operations. As intelligence networks expanded and the consequences of compromised communications became more severe, ninja organizations invested considerable resources in developing encryption methods that could protect sensitive information from enemy analysis. These systems range from simple substitution ciphers that could be memorized by field operatives to complex polyalphabetic codes that required specialized training to implement effectively. The most sophisticated coding systems incorporated multiple layers of encryption that could maintain security, even if individual elements were compromised. Takeda Shingen's employment of ninja capabilities during his campaigns in central Japan demonstrated alternative approaches to intelligence warfare that emphasized different operational priorities than Nobunaga's methods. The Takeda domain's mountainous terrain and defensive strategic position enabled Shingen to focus on intelligence operations that supported territorial defense and selective offensive operations, rather than the aggressive expansion that characterized Nobunaga's campaigns. Takeda ninja specialized in mountain warfare techniques that exploited their familiarity with alpine terrain, while developing capabilities for operations in the difficult geographical conditions that characterize their operational environment. The Takeda intelligence organization's emphasis on defensive operations required different skill sets and organizational structures than those employed by more aggressive military leaders. Takeda Ninja became experts in establishing observation networks that could monitor enemy movements across vast mountainous regions while maintaining communications with central command authorities. These operations required operatives capable of surviving in harsh mountain conditions for extended periods while maintaining the vigilance necessary for effective surveillance activities. The clan's intelligence specialists developed sophisticated understanding of seasonal weather patterns, avalanche risks, and other environmental factors that could affect both their own operations and enemy movements. Takeda Shingen's famous rivalry with Wasugi Kenshin created intelligence challenges that pushed both sides to develop increasingly sophisticated operational capabilities. The repeated campaigns between these two powerful daimyo, particularly their confrontations at Kowanakajima, required detailed intelligence about enemy capabilities, intentions, and tactical preferences that could only be obtained through extensive infiltration operations. Both sides employed ninja operatives who spent months gathering intelligence about their far opponents' military preparations, strategic planning, and psychological state that informed tactical decision-making during their climactic encounters. The intelligence warfare between the Takeda and Wasugi forces demonstrated how ninja capabilities could influence strategic decision-making at the highest levels of military command. Both Shingen and Kenshin relied heavily on intelligence assessments when determining campaign timing, troop deployments, and tactical approaches that could exploit enemy weaknesses while minimizing their own vulnerabilities. The quality of intelligence available to each commander often determined the outcome of their encounters, as superior information enabled better positioning, more effective timing, and tactical approaches that caught opponents unprepared for the specific challenges they faced. Tokugawa Ieyasu's relationship with ninja organizations, particularly his employment of Hattori Hanzo and the IGA clans, represented one of the most successful partnerships between conventional military leadership and specialized covert capabilities in Japanese history. Ieyasu's early experiences as a hostage in different domains had provided him with intimate understanding of intelligence warfare's importance, while his subsequent rise to power demonstrated systematic application of these lessons on an increasingly grand scale. The Tokugawa intelligence networks that developed under Hattori Hanzo's leadership became models for the integration of covert operations with conventional military and political activities. Hattori Hanzo's service to the Tokugawa family began during Ieyasu's youth and continued throughout his rise to national prominence, creating an intelligence partnership that spanned over 4 decades and encompassed some of the most crucial events in Japanese history. Hanzo's background as a member of the IGA Hattori clan provided him with access to extensive networks of trained operatives, while his personal relationship with Ieyasu enabled unprecedented integration of intelligence capabilities with strategic planning. This combination of professional expertise and personal trust created operational advantages that proved decisive in numerous critical situations. The most famous demonstration of Hattori Hanzo's capabilities occurred during Ieyasu's escape from Kyoto following Oda Nobunaga's assassination at Honnoji in 1582. The journey from the capital to Ieyasu's home domain of Mikawa required passage through territories controlled by hostile forces who sought to eliminate potential rivals during the political chaos that followed Nobunaga's death. Hanzo's operatives had prepared multiple escape routes and established safe houses that enabled Ieyasu to reach safety despite intense pursuit by enemies who controlled most of the obvious travel routes between Kyoto and Mikawa. The logistical complexity of Ieyasu's escape operation demonstrated the sophisticated support capabilities that ninja organizations had developed by the late 16th century. Hanzo's network provided not only route planning and security services, but also supplies, transportation, and local guides familiar with terrain features that could be exploited to avoid enemy patrols. The operation required coordination between dozens of operatives positioned along different potential routes while maintaining communication security that prevented enemy forces from anticipating Ieyasu's movements. The successful completion of this mission under extremely dangerous conditions established Hanzo's reputation as one of history's most capable intelligence commanders. The establishment of Tokugawa control over eastern Japan during the 1580s and 1590s relied heavily on intelligence networks that provided Ieyasu with detailed understanding of political conditions throughout the region. Hanzo's operatives gathered information about the loyalty and capabilities of potential allies while conducting surveillance of rivals who might challenge Tokugawa expansion. These intelligence operations enabled Ieyasu to make informed decisions about alliance relationships, military deployments, and political strategies that maximized his advantages while minimizing risks during his gradual consolidation of power. The integration of IGA Ninja into Tokugawa military operations created new organizational models that influenced Japanese intelligence practices for centuries. Rather than employing ninja as independent contractors for specific missions, Ieyasu incorporated them into his regular military structure while maintaining their specialized capabilities and operational autonomy. This approach provided the Tokugawa forces with permanent intelligence capabilities that could adapt rapidly to changing operational requirements while maintaining the security standards essential for effective covert operations. The Battle of Sekigahara in 1600 represented the culmination of Sengoku-era intelligence warfare, as both Tokugawa Ieyasu and his opponents employed extensive ninja networks to gather information about enemy capabilities and intentions. The campaign's outcome depended as much on intelligence operations conducted during the months preceding the battle as on the tactical skills demonstrated during the actual engagement. Both sides invested enormous resources in gathering information about their opponents' political alliances, military preparations, and strategic intentions that would influence the battle's outcome. Ieyasu's intelligence preparation for Sekigahara demonstrated the systematic approach to information warfare that had evolved during the Sengoku period. His operatives conducted comprehensive assessments of potential opponents' military capabilities while simultaneously working to influence political loyalties through carefully orchestrated disinformation campaigns. The intelligence gathered through these operations enabled Ieyasu to position his forces advantageously while predicting the behavior of key commanders whose decisions would determine the battle's outcome. The successful application of these intelligence advantages contributed significantly to the decisive victory that established Tokugawa dominance over Japan. The systematic destruction of IGA province between 1579 and 1581 represented Oda Nobunaga's most ruthless application of total warfare principles, demonstrating his understanding that the ninja strongholds posed a fundamental threat to his vision of unified Japan under centralized military control. Unlike his campaigns against conventional daimyo, which typically ended with negotiated surrenders and integration of defeated territories into his expanding domain, Nobunaga's approach to IGA reflected his recognition that the province's decentralized clan structure and professional covert capabilities could never be safely incorporated into a hierarchical military system. The independent ninja communities represented an alternative model of political organization that challenged the very foundations of his authoritarian state-building project. Nobunaga's initial encounters with IGA resistance had occurred sporadically throughout the 1570s as his forces expanded into central Japan, but these early conflicts failed to prepare him for the sophisticated defensive capabilities that the province's inhabitants could deploy when facing existential threats. Traditional military intelligence had characterized IGA as a collection of minor clans controlling mountainous territory of limited strategic value, populated by farmers and craftsmen who occasionally provided services to neighboring daimyo. This assessment proved catastrophically inadequate, when Nobunaga's advance forces encountered coordinated resistance that demonstrated professional military capabilities far exceeding anything expected from provincial irregulars. The catalyst for systematic military action against IGA emerged from Nobunaga's broader strategic concerns about maintaining secure communications and supply lines between his expanding territories. The province's position astride crucial mountain passes connecting his domains in Owari and Mino with newly conquered territories in the Kinai region made Iga's continued independence increasingly problematic as his military operations expanded in scope and complexity. Intelligence reports describing sophisticated surveillance networks operating throughout the region convinced Nobunaga that Iga's inhabitants possessed detailed knowledge of his military movements and strategic planning that could prove devastating if shared with his enemies. The political implications of Iga's independence extended beyond immediate military concerns to encompass fundamental questions about the nature of authority in Nobunaga's emerging state system. The province's clan-based governance structure, which distributed decision-making power among multiple family leaders rather than concentrating it in a single hierarchical command system, represented a direct challenge to Nobunaga's vision of centralized control. The ninja clan's demonstrated ability to coordinate complex operations across clan boundaries without formal governmental oversight suggested alternative organizational models that could inspire resistance movements in other territories under Nobunaga's control. Nobunaga's intelligence assessments of Iga's defensive capabilities revealed sophisticated preparation that had been developing for decades in anticipation of the eventual confrontation with expanding central authority. The province's inhabitants had constructed extensive networks of hidden fortifications, supply depots and communication systems that could support prolonged resistance against conventional military forces. These preparations included carefully camouflaged observation posts positioned to monitor all major approach routes, underground storage facilities containing weapons and provisions sufficient for extended campaigns, and signal systems capable of coordinating defensive responses across the entire province within hours of detecting enemy movements. The first major military operation against IGA in 1579 demonstrated both the effectiveness of the province's defensive preparations and the inadequacy of conventional military approaches for dealing with guerrilla resistance. Nobunaga's initial assault force, commanded by his son Nobukatsu, advanced into IGA expecting to encounter traditional castle-based defences that could be reduced through siege warfare and direct assault. Instead, the invading forces found themselves operating in hostile territory, where every village concealed potential ambush sites, supply lines faced constant harassment, and enemy forces appeared and disappeared with supernatural effectiveness. The mountainous terrain that defined Iga's geography provided natural advantages that the province's inhabitants had spent generations learning to exploit for defensive purposes. Narrow valleys channeled advancing forces into predetermined killing zones, where small numbers of defenders could inflict devastating casualties on much larger conventional armies. Dense forests provided concealment for defensive positions, while offering multiple escape routes that enabled defenders to withdraw before superior enemy forces could bring their numerical advantages to bear. The region's numerous streams and rivers created natural obstacles that could be defended by minimal forces while forcing attackers to expose themselves during crossing attempts. Iga's defensive strategy emphasized mobility and deception over static fortification, reflecting decades of tactical evolution designed specifically to counter the advantages enjoyed by conventional military forces. Rather than concentrating their forces in traditional castles that could be besieged and reduced through conventional methods, IGA defenders distributed their strength throughout the province's terrain in small, highly mobile units capable of conducting independent operations while maintaining coordination through sophisticated communication networks. This approach enabled them to appear in overwhelming strength at crucial moments while avoiding decisive engagements that could result in catastrophic losses. The psychological warfare aspects of Iga's resistance proved as effective as their physical defensive measures in disrupting Nobunaga's military operations. Defenders employed their reputation for supernatural abilities to maximum advantage, conducting operations that seemed to demonstrate impossible capabilities while spreading carefully crafted disinformation about their numbers, locations, and intentions. Enemy forces found themselves operating in an environment where normal military intelligence methods proved unreliable, as local populations provided misleading information, while genuine intelligence sources remained undetectable until they struck without warning. The failure of Nobukatsu's initial invasion force demonstrated the inadequacy of conventional military approaches for dealing with Iga's defensive capabilities, while providing the province's inhabitants with valuable intelligence about Nobunaga's tactical methods and technological capabilities. IGA operatives who infiltrated the retreating army gathered detailed information about Nobunaga's military organization, equipment standards, and command structures that informed subsequent defensive preparations. The captured weapons and equipment left behind by fleeing forces provided insights into technological developments while supplementing Iga's own military resources. Nobunaga's response to his initial failure in IGA reflected his systematic approach to military problems and his willingness to commit overwhelming resources to achieve strategic objectives. Rather than attempting another conventional assault with modified tactics, he began preparations for a comprehensive campaign designed to eliminate Iga's defensive capabilities through systematic destruction of the infrastructure that supported resistance activities. This approach required detailed intelligence about the province's economic base, population distribution, and logistical networks that could only be obtained through extensive reconnaissance operations conducted over many months. The intelligence preparation for Nobunaga's second IGA campaign demonstrated the sophisticated information warfare capabilities that his forces had developed during decades of military expansion. Reconnaissance teams spent the winter of 1580 to 1581 infiltrating the province to gather detailed information about defensive positions, supply arrangements, and population centres, while establishing the foundation for coordinated attacks that could overwhelm Iga's distributed defensive system. These operations required operatives capable of surviving in hostile mountain terrain during harsh winter conditions, while maintaining operational security against opponents who possessed unparalleled knowledge of their home territory. The scale of Nobunaga's second invasion force reflected his understanding that eliminating Iga's resistance would require resources far exceeding those typically allocated to provincial campaigns. The 1581 assault involved over 40,000 troops, organised into multiple coordinated columns that could approach the province from different directions simultaneously, preventing defenders from concentrating their forces against individual threats while maintaining pressure across the entire defensive perimeter. This massive commitment of resources demonstrated Nobunaga's recognition that IGA represented a strategic threat requiring definitive resolution rather than temporary suppression. The tactical coordination required for Nobunaga's multi-column assault on IGA demanded communication and logistical capabilities that pushed his military organization to new levels of sophistication. Each attacking force required detailed intelligence about terrain conditions, defensive positions, and coordination requirements that enabled synchronized operations across mountainous territory that naturally impeded communication and movement. The successful execution of these complex operations demonstrated the professional competence that Nobunaga's military organization had achieved through decades of continuous warfare and systematic improvement of operational capabilities. The systematic destruction that characterized Nobunaga's second IGA campaign reflected his understanding that eliminating the province's resistance capabilities required more than military victory over organized defensive forces. His forces methodically destroyed villages, temples, and economic infrastructure, that could support future resistance activities while conducting comprehensive searches for hidden weapons, caches, supply depots, and communication facilities. This approach aimed to eliminate not only immediate military threats, but also the economic and social foundations that enabled Iga's unique form of political organisation. The psychological impact of Nobunaga's systematic approach to destroying IGA extended far beyond the immediate military objectives to encompass broader strategic goals related to deterring resistance in other territories. The complete elimination of Iga's independence served as a demonstration of the consequences awaiting any community that attempted to maintain autonomous political organisation within Nobunaga's expanding domain. This deterrent effect proved particularly important as Nobunaga's forces encountered other communities with similar traditions of independence and specialised military capabilities. The final phases of Iga's resistance demonstrated the province's inhabitants' determination to maintain their independence even when facing overwhelming military disadvantage. Small groups of defenders continued guerrilla operations from hidden mountain refuges long after organised resistance had collapsed, conducting raids against Nobunaga's occupation forces while attempting to preserve some remnant of their traditional way of life. These desperate actions achieved little strategic impact but demonstrated the depth of commitment that Iga's unique political culture had fostered among its inhabitants. The diaspora that followed Iga's destruction scattered surviving ninja throughout Japan, creating opportunities for employment with various daimyo, while simultaneously spreading the specialised knowledge and techniques that had developed in the province over previous centuries. Many survivors found refuge with military commanders who recognised the value of their skills, particularly those engaged in conflicts where conventional military approaches had proved inadequate. The integration of former IGA operatives into diverse military organisations accelerated the dissemination of advanced covert warfare techniques throughout Japan's military establishment. Tokugawa Ieyasu's employment of IGA survivors, particularly his relationship with Hattori Hanzo, demonstrated how displaced ninja could find new roles within established military hierarchies while maintaining their specialised capabilities. The Tokugawa domain's defensive strategic position and Ieyasu's personal understanding of intelligence warfare's importance created ideal conditions for integrating former IGA operatives into a coherent organisational structure. This integration process required careful balance between utilising specialised skills and ensuring loyalty to new employers who might have different strategic priorities than the displaced operatives' original communities. The transformation of surviving IGA ninja from independent operators to integrated intelligence assets within established military hierarchies marked a fundamental shift in their social role and operational methods. Where previous generations had operated according to clan-based loyalty structures and community-defined objectives, the post-1581 survivors found themselves adapting to hierarchical military organisations with centralised command structures and strategic goals determined by their new employers. This transition required significant adjustments in operational methods, communication procedures, and professional relationships that challenged traditional ninja culture while creating new opportunities for career advancement. Other daimyo throughout Japan recognized the strategic advantages that could be gained by employing displaced IGA operatives, leading to competitive recruitment efforts that distributed surviving ninja across numerous domains. The Uesugi, Takeda, and Mori clans all established intelligence networks that incorporated former IGA specialists, while smaller daimyo sought to acquire at least minimal covert capabilities by recruiting individual operatives or small teams. This distribution of IGA survivors throughout Japan's military establishment ensured that advanced ninja techniques became widely available while simultaneously fragmenting the concentrated expertise that had made IGA province uniquely formidable. The integration of former IGA ninja into diverse military organizations created new hybrid intelligence capabilities that combined traditional ninja techniques with conventional military methods and technologies. These evolved operational approaches proved particularly effective in the complex political and military environment of the late Sengoku period, where success required both sophisticated intelligence gathering and coordination with large-scale military operations. The flexibility and adaptability that had enabled Iga's resistance also facilitated successful integration into new organizational contexts with different operational requirements. The technological and methodological innovations that emerged from the interaction between displaced IGA operatives and their new employers accelerated the evolution of Japanese intelligence warfare capabilities during the final decades of the Sengoku period. Former IGA specialists brought advanced techniques for infiltration, surveillance, and sabotage that could be enhanced through access to superior resources and technological capabilities available within larger military organizations. This combination of traditional expertise with improved resources produced intelligence capabilities that exceeded what either component could have achieved independently. The long-term consequences of Iga's destruction and the subsequent diaspora of its inhabitants extended far beyond immediate military considerations to encompass fundamental changes in how covert operations were organized and employed throughout Japan. The elimination of an independent ninja stronghold demonstrated that specialized military capabilities could no longer survive outside the protection of major daimyo, while the successful integration of displaced operatives into conventional military structures proved that these skills remained valuable when properly coordinated with broader strategic objectives. These developments established precedents that would influence Japanese intelligence practices for centuries, creating organizational models that balance specialized expertise with hierarchical control in ways that serve the interests of centralized political authority while preserving the operational effectiveness that made covert capabilities strategically valuable. The establishment of Tokugawa Ieyasu's shogunate at Edo in 1603 marked a fundamental transformation in the role and organization of ninja operations throughout Japan. The scattered survivors of Iga's destruction and their counterparts from Koga found themselves facing an entirely new political reality, where their specialized skills would serve not independent clans or competing daimyo, but a unified governmental structure determined to maintain absolute control over Japanese society. The Tokugawa victory at Sekigahara had eliminated the chaotic warfare that had sustained ninja employment for over a century, replacing it with a carefully orchestrated system of governance that sought to channel all forms of violence and intelligence, gathering through official channels controlled by the shogunal administration. Ieyasu's intimate familiarity with ninja capabilities, developed through decades of partnership with Hattori Hanzo and other IGA specialists, provided him with unique insights into how these assets could serve the broader objectives of Tokugawa rule. Unlike previous military leaders who had employed ninja primarily for tactical advantages in specific campaigns, Ieyasu envisioned their integration into a comprehensive system of domestic surveillance and control that could prevent the emergence of threats to shogunal authority before they developed into serious challenges. This strategic vision required fundamental changes in ninja organization, training, and operational methods that would transform them from independent warriors into bureaucratic functionaries serving the state's intelligence requirements. The institutionalization of ninja services within the Tokugawa governmental structure began with the formal incorporation of surviving IGA and Koga operatives into the shogunal military establishment. Rather than maintaining their traditional clan-based organization, these specialists were reorganized into official units that reported directly to trusted Tokugawa administrators, while maintaining their specialized training and operational capabilities. This restructuring process required careful balance between preserving the skills that made ninja valuable and ensuring their complete loyalty to the new regime's political objectives. Hattori Hanzo's appointment as commander of the Edo Castle Guard represented the most visible symbol of ninja integration into the Tokugawa hierarchy. His official title of Iga no Kami reflected both his origins and his new governmental responsibilities, while his residence near the western gate of Edo Castle established the physical presence of ninja authority within the shogunal capital. The gate itself became known as Hanzo Mon in recognition of his role, creating a permanent reminder of how former enemies had become essential components of Tokugawa security arrangements. The transformation of the Hattori clan from independent IGA warriors to hereditary Tokugawa retainers exemplified the broader changes affecting ninja organizations throughout Japan. Family members who had once operated according to clan loyalty and community interests found themselves incorporated into a hierarchical system where advancement depended on service to shogunal objectives rather than traditional ninja values. This transition required significant adjustments in family structure, training methods, and operational priorities that challenged traditional ways of life, while creating new opportunities for social advancement within the Tokugawa system. The development of the Oniwaban system during the early decades of Tokugawa rule represented the most sophisticated application of ninja capabilities to the requirements of domestic governance in Japanese history. Established initially as a palace guard force responsible for protecting the shogun and his immediate family, the Oniwaban evolved into a comprehensive intelligence organization that monitored potential threats throughout Japanese society. The system's name, which translates roughly as Garden Keepers, reflected the Tokugawa administration's preference for euphemistic terminology that concealed the true nature of intelligence activities behind seemingly innocuous bureaucratic functions. The Oniwaban's organizational structure reflected careful adaptation of traditional ninja clan hierarchies to the requirements of bureaucratic administration. Senior positions were typically filled by descendants of prominent IGA and Koga families whose loyalty to the Tokugawa had been demonstrated over multiple generations, while operational roles were assigned to individuals recruited from various backgrounds based on demonstrated competence rather than hereditary status. This hybrid approach preserved valuable expertise while ensuring that the organization's leadership remained firmly committed to shogunal interests, rather than alternative loyalties that might compromise operational security. The recruitment methods employed by the Oniwaban demonstrated sophisticated understanding of the psychological and social factors that produced effective intelligence operatives. Candidates underwent extensive evaluation processes that assessed not only physical capabilities and technical skills, but also psychological stability, moral character, and susceptibility to corruption or coercion. The most promising individuals received comprehensive training that combined traditional ninja techniques with new methods developed specifically for domestic surveillance operations in the peaceful environment of Tokugawa Japan. Training programs within the Oniwaban system emphasized skills that differed significantly from those required for Sengoku-era military operations, where previous generations of ninja had focused primarily on battlefield reconnaissance and military sabotage. Oniwaban operatives learned techniques for urban surveillance, document analysis, and the subtle art of gathering information through seemingly casual social interactions. These evolved skill sets reflected the changed operational environment, where success depended more on understanding complex social networks and bureaucratic relationships than on physical prowess or combat capabilities. The Oniwaban's operational methods demonstrated remarkable sophistication in adapting traditional ninja techniques to the requirements of domestic intelligence gathering. Operatives learned to conduct surveillance of suspected dissidents while maintaining cover identities that provided legitimate reasons for their presence in target communities. The system's agents could pose convincingly as merchants, craftsmen, religious figures, or government officials, depending on operational requirements and the specific social environments they needed to penetrate. This flexibility enabled comprehensive monitoring of potential threats across all levels of Japanese society, The intelligence targets prioritized by the Oniwa ban reflected the Tokugawa administration's primary concerns about maintaining political stability in a unified but potentially fractious society. Christian communities received intensive surveillance due to fears that foreign religious influence might inspire political disloyalty, while masterless samurai attracted attention as potential sources of armed resistance to shogunal authority. Merchant communities were monitored for signs of economic activities that might challenge government monopolies or enable the accumulation of wealth that could fund opposition movements. The Oniwa ban's counterintelligence capabilities developed in response to evidence that foreign powers and domestic dissidents were attempting to gather information about Tokugawa governmental operations and military capabilities. Dutch and Portuguese traders were subjected to careful surveillance that monitored their movements, communications, and interactions with Japanese contacts who might provide sensitive information about domestic conditions. The system's operatives learned to identify and neutralize foreign intelligence operations while gathering information about international developments that might affect Japanese security interests. The geographical scope of Oniwaban operations expanded gradually as the Tokugawa administration recognized the need for comprehensive intelligence coverage throughout Japan's diverse territories. Regional networks were established in major urban centers and strategic locations that could monitor local conditions while maintaining communication with central headquarters in Edo. These distributed capabilities enabled rapid detection of potential threats while providing the shogunal government with detailed understanding of social and economic conditions throughout the realm. The technological innovations developed by Oniwaban operatives reflected the unique requirements of domestic intelligence operations in an increasingly peaceful society. Traditional ninja equipment designed for military operations was modified or replaced with tools better suited for urban surveillance and document analysis. Lockpicking devices became more sophisticated to handle the complex security mechanisms employed by wealthy merchants and government officials, while optical instruments were developed to enable surveillance from greater distances without detection. Communication systems within the Oniwaban network demonstrated remarkable ingenuity in maintaining security while enabling rapid information transmission across vast distances. Coded messaging systems incorporated multiple layers of encryption that could protect sensitive information even if individual communications were intercepted and analyzed by hostile forces. The most critical intelligence was transmitted through networks of trusted couriers who could travel between different regions without arousing suspicion, while routine information was embedded within legitimate commercial or administrative communications. The integration of former ninja families into the Tokugawa administrative system created new social dynamics that challenged traditional concepts of warrior identity and family loyalty. Descendants of proud IGA and Koga clans found themselves serving as functionaries within a bureaucratic hierarchy that valued administrative competence over martial prowess, while their specialized skills were increasingly directed toward domestic surveillance rather than military operations. This transformation required significant psychological adjustments that affected family structures, training traditions, and professional relationships across multiple generations. The Hattori family's evolution from independent warriors to hereditary Tokugawa retainers exemplified both the opportunities and challenges created by integration into the shogunal system. Family members who achieved high positions within the Oniwaban or other governmental organizations gained social status and economic security that would have been impossible under the chaotic conditions of the Sengoku period. However, these advantages came at the cost of operational independence and the traditional clan loyalty that had defined ninja identity for centuries. The gradual decline of traditional ninja skills during the peaceful Edo period reflected the fundamental changes in operational requirements created by the Tokugawa success in establishing domestic stability. The specialized combat techniques, infiltration methods, and sabotage capabilities that had made ninja valuable during the Age of Warfare became increasingly irrelevant in a society where open conflict between major political factions had been eliminated. Young ninja trained in traditional methods found fewer opportunities to apply their skills in meaningful ways, while the most talented individuals were drawn toward administrative careers that offered better prospects for advancement. The transformation of ninja training programs during the Edo period demonstrated systematic adaptation to changed operational requirements while attempting to preserve valuable traditional knowledge. Physical conditioning remained important, but emphasis shifted from combat preparation to the endurance and agility required for extended surveillance operations. Weapons training continued, but focused increasingly on concealed devices suitable for self-defense rather than the specialized military equipment that had characterized earlier periods. Mental discipline and psychological training gained prominence as operatives needed to maintain cover identities for extended periods while resisting the temptation to compromise their missions for personal gain. The economic foundations that supported ninja operations underwent fundamental changes as the Tokugawa system eliminated the competitive marketplace for intelligence services that had sustained independent operations during the Sengoku period. Where previous generations had earned income by contracting their services to competing daimyo, Edo period ninja became salaried employees of the shogunal government with fixed incomes and defined career advancement opportunities. This transformation provided greater economic security, but eliminated the entrepreneurial flexibility that had enabled rapid adaptation to changing market conditions and client requirements. The social status of ninja within Tokugawa society reflected complex tensions between their valuable specialized skills and their origins outside the traditional samurai hierarchy. While senior figures like the Hattori family leaders achieved recognition as important government officials, most ninja operatives remained in ambiguous social positions that provided neither the respect accorded to samurai warriors nor the clear identity available to merchants, farmers, or craftsmen. This uncertain status created ongoing challenges for family advancement and marriage arrangements that affected ninja communities throughout the Edo period. The preservation of ninja knowledge and techniques during the peaceful Tokugawa era required conscious efforts to maintain skills that had little practical application in the stable social environment created by effective shogunal governance. Family traditions, training manuals, and oral histories became increasingly important as repositories of specialized knowledge that might prove valuable if political conditions changed to create renewed demand for traditional ninja capabilities. The most dedicated families invested considerable resources in maintaining training facilities and preserving equipment that had little immediate utility but represented irreplaceable cultural heritage. The international isolation policies implemented by the Tokugawa administration created new operational requirements for ninja organizations while simultaneously limiting their exposure to foreign intelligence techniques and technologies. The need to monitor Dutch and Chinese traders at Nagasaki required specialized knowledge of foreign languages and customs that few traditional ninja possessed, while the prohibition on Japanese travel abroad prevented direct observation of international developments that might affect domestic security. These limitations forced ninja organizations to develop new methods for gathering information about external threats while working within the constraints imposed by official isolation policies. The collapse of the Tokugawa shogunate in 1868 shattered the carefully constructed world that had sustained ninja operations for over 2.5 centuries, forcing the surviving practitioners of these ancient arts to confront a reality more alien than anything their ancestors had faced during the chaotic warfare of the Sengoku period. The Meiji Restoration's promise to enrich the country and strengthen the military through wholesale adoption of Western technology and governmental systems threatened to render obsolete not only the traditional skills that defined ninja identity, but the entire social framework that had enabled their survival within Japan's rigid hierarchical society. The new government's determination to eliminate feudal distinctions and create a modern nation-state based on Western models left little apparent room for the secretive organisations that had once served as the Tokugawa regime's eyes and ears. The immediate aftermath of the restoration created unprecedented chaos within the Oniwaban system and related intelligence networks that had operated under shogunal authority. Senior operatives who had spent decades building careers within the Tokugawa bureaucracy found themselves facing uncertain futures as the new Meiji government systematically dismantled the administrative structures that had employed their services. The hereditary positions that had provided economic security and social status for prominent ninja families disappeared overnight, while the specialized knowledge that had made these individuals valuable to the old regime suddenly appeared irrelevant to administrators obsessed with importing Western innovations and abandoning Japan's feudal past. Hattori families and other descendants of the great IGA and Koga clans faced particularly acute challenges as they watched centuries of accumulated expertise and carefully maintained social connections become worthless in the transformed political environment. The new government's emphasis on merit-based advancement and Western education created barriers that excluded individuals whose qualifications rested primarily on traditional skills and hereditary service records. Many former ninja found themselves competing for positions alongside Western-educated young men who possessed the language abilities, technical knowledge, and cultural familiarity that the Meiji administration valued above the stealth and surveillance capabilities that had once commanded respect and steady employment. The social upheaval that accompanied Japan's rapid modernization created unexpected opportunities for individuals with intelligence-gathering skills, even as it eliminated the traditional structures that had previously employed such capabilities. The massive population movements triggered by the abolition of the Han system and the establishment of prefectural government brought millions of Japanese into contact with unfamiliar communities and social arrangements, creating information gaps that skilled observers could exploit. Former ninja discovered that their traditional abilities to blend into diverse social environments and extract information through careful observation remained valuable even in the dramatically changed circumstances of Meiji Japan. The emergence of new urban centres and the expansion of existing cities created environments where traditional ninja skills found unexpected applications. The rapid growth of Tokyo, Osaka, and other major population centres produced anonymous crowds where individuals with proper training could conduct surveillance operations without attracting the attention that would have been inevitable in the smaller, more intimate communities of the Edo period. The complexity of modern urban life provided numerous cover identities and legitimate reasons for individuals to move freely between different social and economic environments, while gathering information about activities that might interest government authorities or private clients. The Meiji government's initial attempts to create modern military and police forces reveal the inadequacy of Western organizational models when applied to Japanese social conditions and security requirements. European military advisors and imported police procedures proved effective for conventional military operations and routine law enforcement, but failed to address the unique challenges created by Japan's rapid social transformation and the persistence of traditional loyalties that transcended the new governmental structures. These limitations created opportunities for individuals with specialized knowledge of Japanese society and proven abilities in covert operations to find new roles within the emerging security apparatus. The establishment of the Tokyo Metropolitan Police in 1874 marked the beginning of systematic integration of traditional intelligence techniques with modern law enforcement methods. The new police organization faced challenges that conventional Western policing methods could not address effectively, including the need to monitor political dissidents who employed traditional Japanese methods of secret organization and communication. Former Oniwaban operatives and other individuals with ninja backgrounds possessed the cultural knowledge and technical skills necessary to penetrate these networks. making them valuable assets for police commanders seeking to maintain domestic order during the turbulent early Meiji period. The police force's detective divisions became natural destinations for former ninja seeking to apply their traditional skills in legitimate governmental service. These positions required abilities that closely paralleled traditional ninja capabilities, including the capacity to conduct extended surveillance operations, gather information through careful questioning and observation, and maintain cover identities while investigating criminal activities. The transition from covert intelligence gathering for the shogunal government to criminal investigation for the modern police force represented a logical career progression that enabled skilled operatives to preserve their professional identities while adapting to changed social circumstances. The integration of traditional intelligence methods with modern police procedures created hybrid investigative capabilities that proved remarkably effective in addressing the unique crime problems of Meiji Japan. Former ninja brought sophisticated understanding of how to track individuals through complex urban environments, conduct surveillance without detection, and extract information from reluctant witnesses or suspects. These skills, combined with modern forensic techniques and legal procedures imported from Western countries, produced investigative capabilities that exceeded what either traditional or modern methods could have achieved independently. The development of Japan's modern military intelligence capabilities drew heavily on the expertise of individuals with ninja backgrounds who understood both traditional Japanese methods of information gathering and the strategic requirements of modern warfare. The Army and Navy's intelligence sections required personnel capable of gathering information about foreign military capabilities, while simultaneously monitoring domestic conditions that might affect national security. Former ninja possessed the basic skills necessary for these roles, while their familiarity with Japanese social conditions and communication networks provided advantages that Western-trained officers could not match. The establishment of military intelligence schools during the 1870s and 1880s created formal training programs that combined traditional Japanese covert techniques with modern intelligence methods derived from European military practice. These institutions recruited instructors from various backgrounds, including former Oniwaban operatives who could teach traditional skills alongside Western-educated officers who provided expertise in modern military science. The curriculum that emerged from this collaboration produced intelligence officers who understood both the classical Japanese approaches to information warfare and the technological innovations that were transforming military operations throughout the world. The Japanese military's intelligence requirements expanded dramatically as the Meiji government pursued increasingly ambitious foreign policy objectives that required detailed knowledge of conditions in neighbouring countries. The planning for military operations in Korea during the 1870s created demand for intelligence about political conditions, military capabilities, and economic resources that could only be obtained through systematic reconnaissance operations conducted by skilled operatives. Former ninja possessed many of the abilities necessary for such missions, including the capacity to operate independently in foreign territories while maintaining cover identities that would not arouse suspicion among local populations. The complex political situation in Korea during the late 19th century provided ideal conditions for applying traditional ninja techniques to modern intelligence requirements. The peninsula's factional conflicts, foreign interventions, and social upheavals created opportunities for skilled operatives to gather valuable information, while the chaotic conditions provided cover for activities that might have been impossible in more stable environments. Japanese agents with ninja backgrounds proved particularly effective in penetrating Korean political networks and gathering intelligence about Chinese and Russian activities that might affect Japanese strategic interests. The successful application of traditional intelligence techniques to Korean operations encouraged the Japanese military to expand similar activities throughout East Asia as the empire's ambitions grew during the 1890s and early 1900s. Intelligence networks established in China, Manchuria, and other regions drew heavily on personnel with ninja backgrounds who could adapt their traditional skills to the requirements of international espionage. These operations required individuals capable of learning foreign languages, understanding different cultural contexts, and maintaining cover identities in environments far removed from their Japanese origins. The integration of former ninja into Japan's expanding imperial intelligence apparatus created new career opportunities while simultaneously transforming the nature of their professional activities. Where previous generations had operated primarily within Japanese cultural contexts and social networks, Meiji-era intelligence operatives found themselves working in foreign countries, where their traditional skills had to be adapted to unfamiliar languages, customs, and political systems. This expansion of operational scope required continuous learning and adaptation that challenged traditional approaches while creating new possibilities for professional advancement. The establishment of Japanese consulates and commercial enterprises throughout East Asia provided official cover for intelligence operations that drew extensively on personnel with ninja backgrounds. These individuals could pose as diplomats, merchants, or technical advisors while conducting surveillance of foreign military installations, gathering information about political developments, and assessing economic conditions that might affect Japanese strategic planning. The legitimate business activities of these cover organizations provided natural explanations for the extensive travel and diverse contacts that effective intelligence operations required. The technological innovations that transformed late 19th century warfare created new requirements for intelligence gathering that traditional ninja methods could not address without significant modification. The development of modern firearms, artillery, and naval vessels required technical knowledge that went far beyond the capabilities of traditional operatives, while the increasing importance of industrial capacity and transportation networks demanded understanding of economic and technological factors that had been irrelevant during earlier periods. Former ninja found themselves needing to acquire new skills while preserving the traditional capabilities that remained valuable for certain types of operations. The emergence of modern communications technology, including telegraphs and improved postal systems, created both opportunities and challenges for intelligence operations that required fundamental changes in traditional methods. The ability to transmit information rapidly across vast distances enabled more sophisticated coordination of intelligence networks, while simultaneously creating new vulnerabilities to interception and analysis by hostile forces. Former ninja learned to exploit these new communication capabilities while developing countermeasures to protect their own operations from similar surveillance by foreign intelligence services. The cultural transformation that accompanied Japan's modernization created new forms of information that required collection and analysis by intelligence organizations seeking to understand domestic and foreign developments. The proliferation of newspapers, magazines, and other printed materials provided unprecedented access to information about political opinions, economic conditions, and social trends that had previously been difficult to assess systematically. Former ninja developed new skills in document analysis and media monitoring that complemented their traditional abilities in human intelligence gathering. The emergence of photography and other visual documentation technologies provided intelligence operatives with new tools for gathering and preserving information that had previously depended entirely on human observation and memory. Former ninja learned to use cameras and other recording devices while developing techniques for concealing such equipment during covert operations. These technological capabilities enhanced their effectiveness while creating new security challenges that required innovative solutions to prevent detection by increasingly sophisticated counterintelligence efforts. The growth of Japan's educational system and the expansion of literacy throughout the population created new challenges for intelligence operations that had traditionally relied on the limited circulation of information within small, exclusive networks. The proliferation of schools, libraries, and other educational institutions made it increasingly difficult to control access to sensitive information, while simultaneously creating new sources of intelligence about social conditions and political attitudes. Former ninja adapted their traditional methods to operate effectively in this more open information environment while developing new techniques for monitoring and influencing public opinion. The development of modern banking and commercial systems created new targets for intelligence gathering while simultaneously providing cover for covert operations that required legitimate explanations for financial transactions and business relationships. Former ninja learned to exploit the complexity of modern economic networks while using commercial activities to conceal intelligence operations. The international nature of modern business provided natural explanations for the extensive travel and foreign contacts that effective intelligence work required. The emergence of popular literature and theatre during the Meiji period began the process of mythologizing ninja history that would eventually transform public understanding of these traditional practitioners. Early Meiji writers and performers, seeking to create distinctly Japanese cultural products that could compete with imported Western entertainment, discovered that stories about ninja provided ideal material for dramatic presentations that combined historical authenticity with exotic appeal. These early fictional treatments established many of the stereotypes and misconceptions that would dominate popular understanding of ninja for generations. The romanticization of ninja history in Meiji popular culture reflected broader social tensions between traditional Japanese values and imported Western ideas that characterized the period's cultural development. Writers and artists used ninja stories to explore themes of loyalty, sacrifice, and resistance to foreign influence that resonated with audiences struggling to maintain their cultural identity during rapid social transformation. These fictional treatments often emphasized supernatural abilities and dramatic confrontations that bore little resemblance to the actual historical activities of professional intelligence operatives. The commercial success of early ninja-themed entertainment encouraged publishers and theatre producers to commission additional works that gradually expanded the mythological elements while diminishing historical accuracy. The demands of popular entertainment led to increasingly exaggerated depictions of ninja capabilities and activities that emphasized spectacular physical feats and magical powers, rather than the careful observation, patient analysis, and subtle manipulation that had characterized actual covert operations. These fictional portrayals established cultural expectations that would influence public understanding of ninja history for over a century. The emergence of ninja mythology in popular culture created unexpected challenges for former practitioners seeking to maintain their professional effectiveness in modern intelligence roles. The growing public fascination with exaggerated ninja capabilities made it increasingly difficult for actual operatives to maintain the anonymity and cultural invisibility that effective covert work required. The proliferation of fictional ninja stories created public expectations and stereotypes that could compromise operational security by making it easier for hostile forces to identify individuals with genuine intelligence training and experience. The death of Emperor Meiji in 1912 marked not only the end of an era of unprecedented transformation, but also the beginning of a complex process that would fundamentally alter how ninja were perceived, understood, and remembered in both Japan and the wider world. The Taisho period's cultural flowering, combined with Japan's increasing international engagement, created conditions where historical ninja practices began their metamorphosis from documented reality into popular mythology. This transformation occurred through multiple channels simultaneously. The emergence of mass media, the needs of wartime propaganda, academic scholarship's attempts to separate fact from fiction, and the global entertainment industry's insatiable appetite for exotic martial arts narratives. The proliferation of popular magazines during the Taisho era provided the first mass medium through which ninja stories could reach audiences far beyond the traditional boundaries of regional folklore and family histories. Publications like Kodan Club and Bungai Club discovered that serialized adventure stories featuring ninja protagonists generated exceptional reader interest, leading to an explosion of fictional narratives that drew loosely on historical events while embellishing them with increasingly fantastic elements. These magazine serials, written by authors who possessed limited access to authentic historical sources, relied heavily on imagination to fill gaps in their knowledge, creating elaborate fictional frameworks that would influence popular understanding for generations. The visual arts contributed significantly to this mythologization process through the work of illustrators who created the first widely circulated images of ninja in action. Artists working for popular magazines developed distinctive visual conventions that emphasized dramatic poses, flowing black garments, and supernatural agility that bore little resemblance to the practical clothing and equipment actually employed by historical intelligence operatives. These illustrations established visual stereotypes that became so deeply embedded in popular consciousness that they eventually influenced how even serious historians and researchers conceptualize ninja appearance and capabilities. The emergence of cinema as a popular entertainment medium during the 1910s and 1920s provided unprecedented opportunities for ninja mythology to evolve beyond the constraints of written narrative and static illustration. Early Japanese filmmakers, seeking to create distinctly national entertainment products that could compete with imported Western films, discovered that ninja subjects offered ideal material for visually spectacular productions that showcase traditional Japanese culture while appealing to audiences' appetite for action and adventure. These early films established cinematic conventions that would dominate ninja portrayals for decades, emphasizing acrobatic movement, exotic weapons, and mysterious disappearances that created lasting impressions far more powerful than any written description. The technical limitations of early cinema inadvertently contributed to ninja mythologization by requiring filmmakers to rely on theatrical tricks and optical illusions to depict supernatural abilities that existed only in fictional narratives. Camera techniques developed to show ninja vanishing in clouds of smoke or scaling vertical walls with impossible speed created visual effects that audiences accepted as authentic representations of historical capabilities. These cinematic innovations established expectations about ninja abilities that bore no relationship to documented historical practices, but became so deeply embedded in popular culture that they influenced how subsequent generations understood the historical record. The international success of early Japanese films featuring ninja characters introduced these mythologized figures to global audiences who possess no cultural context for distinguishing between historical fact and entertainment fiction. Western viewers, already fascinated by exotic Oriental mysticism and martial arts, embraced ninja mythology enthusiastically while remaining largely unaware of the complex historical realities that had inspired these fictional creations. This international enthusiasm created market pressures that encouraged Japanese filmmakers to emphasize increasingly spectacular and unrealistic ninja abilities to satisfy foreign audience expectations. The rise of militarism during the 1930s created new political context that influenced how ninja history was interpreted and presented to Japanese audiences. Government censors and propaganda officials discovered that ninja stories could serve useful purposes in promoting traditional Japanese values and martial spirit, but only when properly sanitized to eliminate elements that might conflict with official ideology. This political pressure led to systematic revision of ninja narratives to emphasize loyalty, sacrifice, and service to legitimate authority, while downplaying the historical reality that many ninja had operated as independent professionals serving whoever offered the most attractive compensation. The Second World War's impact on ninja legacy proved paradoxical, simultaneously preserving certain authentic techniques while accelerating the mythologization process that obscured their historical origins. Japanese military forces, facing the challenge of conducting guerrilla warfare and intelligence operations across the vast Pacific theater, rediscovered the practical value of traditional covert techniques that had been largely forgotten during the peaceful Meiji and Taisho periods. Special operations units received training in infiltration, sabotage and survival skills that drew directly on ninja traditions preserved in family archives and training manuals that had survived the previous century's social upheavals. The establishment of the Nakano School in 1938 represented the most systematic attempt to integrate traditional ninja techniques with modern military requirements since the Meiji period's early experiments in military intelligence. This institution, officially designated as the Army Intelligence School, recruited instructors who possessed authentic knowledge of historical covert practices while developing curricula that adapted these techniques to contemporary operational requirements. Students learned traditional skills including silent movement, lock-picking and psychological manipulation alongside modern subjects such as radio operation, explosives handling, and foreign language study. The Nakano School's training programs demonstrated remarkable continuity with historical ninja education methods, despite the dramatically different technological and strategic contexts in which they operated. Physical conditioning exercises emphasized the development of exceptional agility, endurance, and sensory awareness that had characterized traditional ninja training for centuries. Students practiced moving silently across different types of terrain, climbing vertical surfaces using minimal equipment, and remaining motionless for extended periods while conducting surveillance operations. These physical skills were supplemented by intensive instruction in disguise techniques, cover identity maintenance, and the psychological disciplines necessary for maintaining operational security under extreme stress. The school's curriculum also included systematic study of traditional weapons and tools that had been employed by historical ninja, not as museum pieces but as practical equipment that might prove useful in modern operations. Students learned to construct and employ shuriken, caltrops and climbing devices using materials available in field conditions, while developing proficiency with traditional bladed weapons that could serve as silent alternatives to firearms when operational security required avoiding noise or muzzle flash. This practical approach to traditional equipment demonstrated that many historical ninja tools retained tactical value even in the mechanized warfare environment of the 1940s. The intelligence-gathering techniques taught at the Nakano School drew heavily on methods developed by historical ninja organizations, adapted to address the information requirements of modern military operations. Students learned to conduct systematic surveillance of enemy installations while maintaining cover identities that would withstand scrutiny from suspicious observers. They practiced extracting information from unwilling sources through psychological manipulation rather than physical coercion, developing skills in reading human behavior and exploiting emotional vulnerabilities that had been central to ninja training for centuries. The school's emphasis on psychological warfare and propaganda operations reflected modern military requirements while building on foundations established by historical ninja who had understood the importance of morale and public opinion in determining conflict outcomes. Students learned to create and disseminate disinformation designed to confuse enemy decision-making processes while simultaneously gathering intelligence about enemy psychological vulnerabilities that could be exploited through carefully crafted propaganda campaigns. These skills required deep understanding of cultural psychology and social dynamics that paralleled the knowledge base that had made historical ninja effective in penetrating and manipulating complex social networks. The wartime employment of Nakano School graduates in operations throughout the Pacific Theatre provided extensive practical testing of how traditional ninja techniques could be adapted to modern warfare conditions. Operatives conducted intelligence-gathering missions in occupied territories, organized resistance networks behind enemy lines, and performed sabotage operations against Allied supply lines and communication facilities. These activities required the same basic skills that had made historical ninja valuable to their employers: the ability to operate independently in hostile territory, maintain cover identities under scrutiny, and accomplish mission objectives through stealth and deception rather than direct confrontation. The documentation of wartime special operations conducted by personnel with ninja training created the first systematic records of how traditional covert techniques performed under modern combat conditions. Military after-action reports described successful infiltration of heavily guarded Allied installations, the establishment of intelligence networks that operated for months without detection, and sabotage operations that achieved strategic objectives through minimal resource expenditure. These documented successes provided concrete evidence that traditional ninja skills retained practical military value even in the technological warfare environment of the 1940s. However, the war's ultimate outcome and the subsequent occupation of Japan by Allied forces created conditions that severely disrupted the transmission of authentic ninja knowledge, while simultaneously accelerating the mythologization process. The systematic destruction of military records and training materials by retreating Japanese forces eliminated many primary sources that documented the practical application of traditional techniques, while the disbanding of special operations units scattered trained personnel throughout civilian society, where their specialized knowledge became increasingly isolated from institutional support and systematic development. The American occupation's democratization policies and educational reforms created additional pressures that discouraged the preservation of traditional military knowledge, including ninja techniques that were associated with Japan's discredited militaristic past. Former Nakano School instructors and graduates found themselves unable to discuss their wartime activities openly, while the specialized skills they had learned became increasingly irrelevant in Japan's pacifist post-war society. This enforced silence about authentic ninja applications created an information vacuum that popular culture filled with increasingly fantastic fictional narratives. The emergence of academic historical research during the 1950s and 1960s represented the first systematic attempt to separate ninja fact from fiction through scholarly methodology and archival investigation. Historians like Okusei Heishichiro and Fujita Seiko began collecting and analysing primary sources that documented actual ninja activities, seeking to establish accurate historical records that could counter the proliferation of mythological narratives in popular culture. The research revealed that historical ninja had been far more mundane and practical than popular culture suggested, functioning primarily as intelligence professionals rather than supernatural warriors. These early academic studies faced significant challenges in accessing reliable source materials due to the secretive nature of historical ninja operations and the destruction of many archives during the war. Researchers had to rely heavily on indirect evidence, including military records that mention ninja activities without describing their methods, family documents that preserve training techniques without explaining their historical context, and architectural evidence from castles and fortifications that revealed the practical challenges ninja had been designed to overcome. This limited source base made it difficult to construct comprehensive narratives that could compete with the dramatic appeal of fictional alternatives. The academic community's efforts to establish accurate historical understanding of ninja were further complicated by the reluctance of surviving practitioners and their descendants to share knowledge that had been carefully guarded for generations. Families that had preserved authentic techniques and historical records remained suspicious of outside researchers, particularly academics who might publish sensitive information that could compromise operational security or violate traditional obligations to maintain secrecy. This resistance to scholarly investigation meant that much authentic knowledge remained inaccessible to researchers seeking to document historical reality. The work of scholars like Nawa Yumio, who combined academic training with practical martial arts experience, began to bridge the gap between scholarly research and authentic traditional knowledge during the 1960s and 1970s. Nawa's investigations into historical weapon techniques and his efforts to preserve traditional training methods provided more accurate understanding of ninja capabilities while demonstrating that these skills could be studied and practiced without compromising their essential character. His research established important precedents for combining academic methodology with respect for traditional knowledge systems. The international martial arts boom that began during the 1960s created unprecedented global interest in ninja techniques, while simultaneously accelerating their transformation from practical skills into commercialized entertainment products. The success of Bruce Lee films and the growing popularity of karate and judo created market demand for exotic martial arts that could offer something different from the increasingly familiar Chinese and Japanese systems. Ninja techniques, with their emphasis on stealth and unconventional weapons, provided ideal material for entrepreneurs seeking to capitalize on this martial arts enthusiasm. The commercialization of ninja training during the 1970s produced a proliferation of schools and instructors who claimed to teach authentic historical techniques while actually offering simplified versions adapted for recreational practitioners with no interest in developing genuine covert capabilities. These commercial ninja schools emphasized physical conditioning and weapons training, while largely ignoring the intelligence gathering, psychological manipulation, and cultural knowledge that had made historical ninja effective. This selective presentation created widespread misunderstanding about the true nature of ninja skills while establishing commercial standards that prioritized entertainment value over historical accuracy. The global expansion of commercial ninja instruction created international communities of practitioners who shared enthusiasm for ninja techniques while possessing limited understanding of their historical context or practical applications. American and European martial artists embraced ninja training as an exotic alternative to more conventional fighting systems, developing their own interpretations and innovations that bore increasingly little resemblance to historical practices. These international developments created feedback loops that influenced Japanese popular culture, as domestic audiences became fascinated by how foreign practitioners interpreted their traditional heritage. The emergence of ninja-themed entertainment in American popular culture during the 1970s represented the culmination of the mythologization process that had begun decades earlier in Japanese magazines and films. Hollywood productions like Enter the Dragon and television series such as The Master presented ninja as mysterious assassins with supernatural abilities, establishing stereotypes that would dominate Western understanding for generations. These productions combined elements drawn from various Asian martial arts traditions with original fictional innovations, creating hybrid ninja mythology that bore little relationship to any historical reality. The success of American ninja entertainment created international market demand that encouraged further mythologization as producers sought to create increasingly spectacular and exotic presentations. The competitive pressures of commercial entertainment led to systematic exaggeration of ninja capabilities, with each new production attempting to surpass previous efforts through more dramatic action sequences and more fantastic supernatural abilities. This escalating mythologization process created popular expectations that made accurate historical presentation seem boring and unmarketable by comparison. The technological innovations in film production during the 1970s enabled more convincing depictions of supernatural ninja abilities, creating visual effects that audiences accepted as authentic representations of traditional capabilities. Improved camera work, editing techniques, and special effects allowed filmmakers to create increasingly spectacular action sequences that reinforced popular misconceptions about historical ninja while establishing new fictional standards that subsequent productions would attempt to exceed. These technical capabilities enabled the creation of ninja mythology that was far more elaborate and convincing than anything possible in earlier media formats. The cultural impact of this mythologization process extended far beyond entertainment to influence academic research, martial arts instruction, and public understanding of Japanese history. The proliferation of fictional ninja narratives created cultural expectations that made it increasingly difficult for scholars and authentic practitioners to present accurate historical information without seeming to contradict widely accepted popular knowledge. This cultural pressure encouraged even serious researchers to emphasize dramatic elements of ninja history while downplaying the mundane reality that most covert operations had involved patient observation and careful analysis rather than spectacular physical confrontations. The preservation of authentic ninja knowledge during this period of intense mythologization required conscious efforts by dedicated individuals and families who recognized the importance of maintaining accurate historical records despite popular culture's preference for fictional alternatives. Traditional practitioners continued to study and practice genuine techniques while carefully documenting their historical origins and practical applications. These preservation efforts created repositories of authentic knowledge that would prove invaluable for later generations of researchers seeking to understand the historical reality behind the popular mythology. The tension between authentic preservation and popular mythologization created complex dynamics within Japanese culture as traditional practitioners struggled to maintain their heritage while adapting to modern social conditions that offered little support for genuine ninja skills. Some families chose to maintain strict secrecy about their traditional knowledge, preserving techniques and historical records within closed communities that remained largely invisible to outside observers. Others attempted to engage with popular culture and academic research, seeking to influence public understanding while protecting essential elements of their traditional heritage from commercialization and distortion. The emergence of serious academic research into ninja history during the 1980s marked a pivotal moment in the ongoing struggle between scholarly accuracy and popular mythology. Universities across Japan began establishing formal programs dedicated to studying the historical realities of covert warfare, with institutions like Mie University taking the lead in systematic investigation of primary sources that had survived centuries of deliberate secrecy and wartime destruction. These academic initiatives faced the formidable challenge of reconstructing authentic historical narratives from fragmentary evidence while competing against well-established popular misconceptions that had been reinforced by decades of commercial entertainment and sensationalized media coverage. The establishment of the International Ninja Research Society in 1987 represented the first coordinated effort to apply rigorous scholarly methodology to ninja studies, while fostering collaboration between Japanese researchers and international academics interested in covert warfare history. The organization's founding members included historians, anthropologists, and martial arts scholars who shared commitment to separating documented facts from accumulated folklore through systematic analysis of surviving documents, archaeological evidence, and oral traditions preserved within traditional families. Their early conferences and publications began establishing scholarly standards for ninja research that emphasized primary source documentation and critical analysis of claims that had previously been accepted without question. Dr. Yamada Yutaka's groundbreaking research at Mie University during the 1990s revolutionized academic understanding of ninja operations by gaining unprecedented access to family archives that had been closed to outside researchers for centuries. His patient cultivation of relationships with descendants of prominent ninja clans eventually yielded access to training manuals, operational records, and equipment collections that provided the first comprehensive view of how historical ninja actually functioned. These materials revealed that authentic ninja practices had been far more systematic and professional than popular culture suggested, involving extensive study of psychology, geography, and social dynamics, alongside the physical skills that dominated fictional portrayals. The university's establishment of the Ninja Museum of Igiryu in 1964 expanded significantly during the 1980s and 1990s, created the first institution dedicated to preserving and displaying authentic ninja artifacts and historical documents. The museum's collection included genuine weapons, tools, and equipment that demonstrated the practical nature of ninja operations while providing concrete evidence for researchers studying historical techniques and technologies. Interactive exhibits allowed visitors to experience reconstructed ninja training exercises and infiltration scenarios, offering more accurate understanding of ninja capabilities than the supernatural feats depicted in popular entertainment. The museum's research programs attracted international scholars who contributed comparative perspectives on covert warfare traditions from other cultures, revealing that many techniques attributed uniquely to Japanese ninja had parallels in European, Middle Eastern, and Chinese intelligence practices. These cross-cultural comparisons helped establish ninja history within broader contexts of military intelligence development, while identifying genuinely unique innovations that emerged from Japan's specific geographical and cultural conditions. The resulting scholarship demonstrated that ninja represented sophisticated responses to particular strategic challenges rather than mystical traditions disconnected from practical military requirements. Contemporary preservation efforts by traditional ninjutsu schools faced complex challenges in maintaining authentic techniques while adapting to modern social conditions that offered limited opportunities for applying genuine covert skills. The Bujinkan organization, established by Hatsumi Masaki in 1970, became the most prominent international vehicle for transmitting traditional ninja knowledge through systematic instruction programs that emphasized historical accuracy while acknowledging the recreational nature of most contemporary practice. Hatsumi's approach combined rigorous study of classical techniques with philosophical instruction that helped students understand the cultural context that had shaped ninja development. The Bujinkan's international expansion during the 1980s and 1990s created global networks of practitioners who studied traditional ninja techniques while adapting them to contemporary self-defense and physical fitness applications. Training centers established throughout North America, Europe, and Australia attracted students seeking authentic martial arts instruction that differed from the commercialized systems that dominated most martial arts schools. These international communities developed their own interpretations of traditional techniques while maintaining connections to Japanese source schools that provided ongoing instruction and cultural context. The organization's emphasis on preserving classical training methods created unique educational environments where students learned traditional weapons handling, stealth movement, and psychological techniques, alongside historical and cultural studies that provided context for understanding these skills. Advanced practitioners studied classical Japanese texts, participated in traditional ceremonies, and travelled to Japan for intensive training sessions that connected them directly with the cultural heritage they sought to preserve. This comprehensive approach produced practitioners who possessed both technical skills and cultural understanding that enabled them to serve as bridges between traditional Japanese knowledge and international communities. Other traditional schools, including the Kogavyu and various Iga-ryu lineages, pursued different strategies for preserving authentic ninja knowledge while maintaining the secrecy that had protected their traditions for centuries. Some families continued practicing traditional techniques within closed communities that remained largely invisible to outside observers, preserving ancient knowledge through direct transmission from master to student without written documentation that might compromise operational security. These secretive preservation efforts maintained the most authentic connections to historical practices while limiting access to knowledge that might benefit broader scholarly research. The tension between preservation and accessibility created ongoing debates within traditional communities about how much knowledge should be shared with outside researchers and practitioners. Conservative factions argued that maintaining secrecy remained essential for protecting the integrity of traditional teachings, while progressive voices contended that broader dissemination could ensure survival of valuable knowledge that might otherwise disappear as traditional family structures weakened under modern social pressures. These debates reflected broader cultural tensions between traditional Japanese values and contemporary pressures for transparency and academic access. The global martial arts phenomenon that exploded during the 1980s and 1990s created unprecedented international interest in ninja techniques while simultaneously threatening their authentic preservation through commercialization and oversimplification. Martial arts schools throughout the world began offering ninja training that emphasized physical conditioning and weapons practice, while largely ignoring the intelligence gathering, cultural knowledge, and psychological skills that had made historical ninja effective. This commercial appropriation created widespread misconceptions about ninja capabilities while generating revenue streams that supported some legitimate preservation efforts. International ninjutsu communities that developed during this period created complex networks of practitioners who shared enthusiasm for ninja techniques while possessing varying levels of understanding about their historical context and practical applications. Some communities maintained close connections with Japanese source schools and emphasized historical accuracy in their training programs, while others developed their own interpretations that incorporated elements from various martial arts traditions, alongside original innovations that bore little resemblance to historical practices. These diverse approaches created a spectrum of international ninjutsu practice that ranged from carefully preserved traditional methods to completely modernized systems that retained only superficial connections to historical ninja. The establishment of international governing bodies and certification systems attempted to create standards for ninjutsu instruction while managing the proliferation of unqualified instructors who claimed expertise in traditional techniques. Organizations like the World Ninjutsu Federation worked to establish minimum requirements for instructor certification while promoting historical accuracy in curriculum development and teaching methods. These efforts faced significant challenges from commercial pressures that favored simplified training programs over comprehensive study of traditional techniques and cultural contexts. The development of international communication networks, particularly the Internet's emergence during the 1990s, revolutionized how ninja knowledge was shared and preserved while creating new challenges for maintaining the quality and authenticity of transmitted information. Online forums and websites enabled practitioners from different countries to share training experiences and technical knowledge while connecting with Japanese masters who could provide guidance and correction. However, the democratization of information sharing also enabled unqualified individuals to present themselves as experts while disseminating inaccurate or completely fictional information that confused serious students and reinforced popular misconceptions. The ongoing tension between historical accuracy and popular entertainment reached new levels of complexity during the 1980s and 1990s as improved special effects technology enabled increasingly spectacular depictions of ninja capabilities in films and television programs. Hollywood productions like the American Ninja series and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles created ninja imagery that bore no relationship to historical reality, while achieving unprecedented commercial success that reinforced popular misconceptions about ninja abilities and cultural significance. These productions established visual and narrative conventions that influenced how subsequent generations understood ninja history, creating cultural expectations that made accurate historical presentation seem inadequate by comparison. Japanese filmmakers responded to international commercial pressures by producing increasingly elaborate ninja entertainment that emphasized supernatural abilities and exotic weapons, while downplaying the mundane reality of historical intelligence operations. Productions like Ninja Scroll and various television series created distinctly Japanese ninja mythology that differed from Western interpretations, while sharing their emphasis on spectacular action sequences and magical abilities. This domestic mythologization process created feedback loops that influenced how Japanese audiences understood their own cultural heritage. As fictional presentations became more familiar and accessible than scholarly research or traditional family knowledge. The entertainment industry's impact on ninja legacy extended beyond simple misrepresentation to encompass systematic distortion of historical records and cultural understanding. Popular culture's emphasis on dramatic conflict and supernatural abilities created expectations that influenced how historians presented their research findings, encouraging scholars to emphasize violent confrontations and exotic techniques, while downplaying the patient intelligence gathering and careful analysis that had characterized most ninja operations. This cultural pressure affected academic research by making mundane historical reality seem less interesting and marketable than fictional alternatives. Contemporary scholars working to preserve authentic ninja history developed sophisticated strategies for engaging with popular culture while maintaining scholarly integrity and historical accuracy. Some researchers collaborated with entertainment producers to provide historical consultation that could improve the accuracy of fictional presentations, while others focused on creating accessible popular publications that could compete with sensationalized accounts by offering more compelling narratives based on documented evidence. These efforts achieved limited success in influencing popular understanding, but established important precedents for scholarly engagement with commercial media. The emergence of digital media and internet communication created new opportunities for preserving and disseminating authentic ninja knowledge, while simultaneously accelerating the spread of misinformation and commercial exploitation. Legitimate researchers and traditional practitioners began establishing online archives that preserved historical documents, training manuals, and artifact photographs in digital formats that could survive physical destruction while remaining accessible to qualified researchers. These digital preservation efforts created unprecedented opportunities for collaborative research that connected scholars and practitioners from different countries while maintaining security measures that protected sensitive information from inappropriate disclosure. The development of virtual reality and interactive media technologies offered new possibilities for preserving and transmitting traditional ninja techniques through immersive experiences that could replicate training environments and historical scenarios. Advanced computer simulations enabled practitioners to experience reconstructed ninja training exercises and historical operations while providing researchers with tools for testing hypotheses about historical techniques and capabilities. These technological innovations created opportunities for preserving knowledge that might otherwise be lost while providing new methods for studying and understanding traditional practices. The establishment of international academic conferences dedicated to ninja studies created forums where researchers could share findings and coordinate preservation efforts, while establishing scholarly standards for evaluating claims about historical ninja capabilities. These conferences brought together historians, anthropologists, martial artists, and cultural preservationists who shared commitment to understanding ninja legacy through rigorous methodology and evidence-based analysis. The collaborative networks that emerged from these meetings created unprecedented opportunities for comprehensive research that could address the complex challenges of reconstructing historical reality from fragmentary evidence. Contemporary preservation efforts faced ongoing challenges from the commercialization pressures that continued to distort public understanding of ninja history, while creating financial incentives for sensationalized presentations over scholarly accuracy. The success of ninja-themed entertainment created market demand that encouraged publishers, filmmakers, and martial arts entrepreneurs to emphasize dramatic elements while ignoring historical context and cultural significance. These commercial pressures affected even legitimate preservation efforts by creating expectations that educational programs should provide entertainment value comparable to fictional alternatives. The aging of traditional practitioners and the weakening of family-based knowledge transmission systems created urgency for preservation efforts that could capture authentic knowledge before it disappeared with the death of elderly masters. Many ninja families that had preserved traditional techniques for centuries faced the prospect that their knowledge would die with them unless systematic efforts were made to document and preserve their teachings for future generations. This time, pressure encouraged some traditionally secretive families to collaborate with researchers and academic institutions that could ensure the survival of their cultural heritage. The integration of traditional ninja knowledge with contemporary security and intelligence applications created new contexts for preserving and developing authentic techniques while adapting them to modern operational requirements. Military and law enforcement agencies began studying traditional ninja methods for insights that could enhance contemporary special operations capabilities, reconnaissance techniques, and intelligence gathering procedures. These applications provided practical validation for traditional knowledge while creating new opportunities for preserving and developing authentic techniques within professional contexts that valued effectiveness over entertainment value. The legacy of ninja in contemporary Japan and the broader world represents a complex intersection of historical reality, cultural preservation, commercial exploitation, and ongoing mythologization that continues to evolve as new technologies and social conditions create fresh challenges and opportunities. While popular culture's distortions have created widespread misconceptions about ninja capabilities and historical significance, serious scholarly research and dedicated preservation efforts by traditional practitioners have established solid foundations for understanding the authentic legacy of these remarkable intelligence professionals. The tension between accuracy and entertainment that has characterized ninja legacy for over a century shows no signs of resolution, but the establishment of rigorous scholarly standards and the commitment of dedicated preservationists ensures that future generations will have access to authentic knowledge alongside the fictional alternatives that continue to dominate popular culture. The story of the ninja, from their origins in the political chaos of ancient Japan through their transformation into global cultural icons, reflects broader themes about how societies remember and interpret their past while adapting traditional knowledge to contemporary needs. Their legacy demonstrates both the resilience of authentic cultural traditions and the power of popular media to reshape historical understanding, creating complex dynamics that continue to influence how we understand the relationship between historical reality and cultural memory in an interconnected world, where information travels instantly, but accuracy remains elusive.